Hi, this is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today we're doing It's Clobbering Time. And if you're watching for a while, you know that every Friday night, usually at 8:30, Marcus joins us. Sometimes James Lee joins us, and it's an open invite for other people. Matter of fact, I'll throw the link in the chat again, and I'll start this time. And it's an open invite, so we just playfully joke around, fight who would win a fight, Batman, Spider-Man, and all that stuff. But this week we're going to do Asgard versus Olympus. I'm just as much as I'm into comic books, I'm into mythology. So this is something I wanted to do. But at 9:30, I'm going to have a conversation with Yellow Flash. That was the only time we could work it out together. So I didn't want to start at 8:30 and be rushed. And since I didn't have anybody booked for 7 o'clock, I figured whatever. So I hope people aren't confused. I hope we're not going to, the regulars aren't going to be able to join us. But there we go. That's the rationale. So how you doing, James? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. Just did yard work all day, and then worked on the book some.
Oh, you've been doing yard work? I hate yard work. I mean, I'll do it, but I hate doing it.
Well, I have a full acre of land.
I got a tiny little property. Me and my wife got a tiny house with a tiny property. The less stuff I got to maintain.
I mean, I've got a small house, but I've got a lot of land. That's the thing.
Even the small house and small land is a lot to maintain.
Yeah.
Just before my car accident, I told everybody I trimmed branches. So while I was in my neck brace, I'm out there with my chainsaw cutting up all the branches, bringing everything. I didn't be that much work. Oh my God. And then at the beginning of the week, I think it was Saturday, my lawn looked like the Sahara Desert. It was just dirt. Now it's been raining. It's been raining every day this week. My lawn looks like a jungle. Like the grass is unbelievably. I was like, oh my God, I got to get the lawn mowed. But my wife, she says, don't, because we got a service who comes. I call him and he comes, because the last guy would just show up and mow my lawn, whether I needed it or not, and charge me. So I told him, don't come unless I call
you. You don't need a guy every week.
Right.
When I was working a lot of overtime at the phone company, I had a guy come every week because I couldn't do it in New York. I had to do my own here when I had a house in North Carolina.
Yeah. The problem I have is my allergies act up. That's why my face is swollen here and up here. I have clover on most of my property. And when I mow all that down, all that pollen comes out of the clover. It just goes everywhere.
So this guy, my wife says, don't call Felix yet, because she wants to do something. So I was like, you got to make a decision soon, because the grass in 1 week is like up to my knees already. It was a dead lawn to a jungle just for a week.
It does take a little rain, yeah.
Yeah, it's just
a little rain, and we got a lot of rain here.
I'm also feeling a little tired today. It's psychological, because I got to work tomorrow. It's gonna be like an 18-hour day, and it's a Saturday schedule at the Long Island Railroad. So I got to wake up an hour early to catch an hour to sit there for an hour before work even starts.
I remember the Saturday schedule,
but it's time and a half, 18 hours. So
when do you go double time?
Yeah,
we don't have double time in my union.
In 9X, and that's now Verizon, it would be time and a half, and then after 9 hours would be double time. So if it was every day after night, Saturday would be double time, and Sunday is always double time.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why your bills are so high.
Well, see, where I'm at, if you work on a holiday, it's automatic double time and a half.
No, we don't.
That was always an argument, whether that was just time and a half plus a day or double time and a half.
Well, it classifies as double time. But the thing is, because where I work,
I was never home in New York.
We get overtime when it's needed, but it's not there all the time, so you don't bank on it.
Yeah, I don't want to give away my pay, but we get paid pretty good. So time and a half ago. And
complain about
there's no tax on overtime. Come on, man. Let's go. Let's get this through. I don't know why any union guy is fighting Trump at this point. It's like no tax on overtime, guys. So
I don't know why anybody. What did Jimmy Palmiotti post? Oh my God, there's tariffs on bags and boards. If you're paid if that's the worst we can worry about.
Yeah. Well, maybe these factories will come back to America. I remember when the Democrats wanted everything built in America. Now,
I do too. That's why the unions. That's why the union's Democrat.
That's the whole thing. Everything's flip flopped.
Yep.
It's all flip flop.
Where Democrats used to be for the blue collar worker, hardworking person, family man, didn't make more than $70,000. Went to church, the whole thing, and then keeping union jobs here, keeping manufacturing jobs here, and like that. And now it's like, oh my God, we can't do it no more. We got to, and find out how much the tariffs were and how much they caved to other countries. I was like, what the hell?
Yep.
Okay, that's political. Let's get back to our regular topic, please.
I'm just filibustering.
I don't consider that necessarily political. That's kind of like everyday stuff that everybody's got to kind of worry.
I know. I just had for once I actually got to say that. Usually I don't say that.
This is my copy of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way.
Nice.
You think I used it a little bit?
Yeah. I don't know where mine's at.
It's an original. I mean, it's an old copy since I was a kid.
Yeah, I got a first printing of it, but it's a little beat up. I would rather.
I used it, and it started falling apart. And then I used it for teaching kids. I used to Xerox the stuff.
I don't know how many people bought that book, but I mean, they must have sold hundreds of thousands.
I took it out of the library first, and then I bought it.
Yeah.
I would rather have a little beat up first printing than a near mint new edition.
Well, I don't know what printing that is. I guess I could find the indicia.
Yeah, it's right in the front. It'll tell you, all the.
Oh, I know. I have the first page somewhere.
But the funny thing is when you find out exactly what the difference is between first and second printing, you're like going, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Because the bad thing about the printing is like if you do hardback, paperback, digital, Kindle, iTunes, each one has to have a different ISBN number.
Yeah.
And it's insane. And then you get the list of, this is how many you sold of each one, and this is how much we're sending you. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. All right. So, the last thing I wanted to talk about, my wife has been making all the little thumbnails for It's Clobbering Time for me. Like I sent her the 2 images. That's how illiterate I am on a computer. I can't even do that. But unless Spider-Man and Batman, I got to get images because I can't use. But I use Grok, like Odin versus Zeus. And I just hit the reset until I get a picture that's okay. So I think I did that like 2 or 3 times because I did wizards, or writers versus artists. And so she's like, "Are you cheating on me with Grok?" So I guess it's time to announce it. So now we hear it, all of these comic book people having troubles with their wives. Yes, me and my wife I'm having an affair with Grok, and my wife just caught me today. So I
needed some real quick references for characters from my novel. So I went over to see what Grok could do. And they put out some really good stuff. I was like, okay, that one, because they give you like two to 4 choices.
Right.
And you pick but you can keep going. But I did all my demons. I did all my monsters and stuff for my novel. So I have picture references to use when I write my novels. You have to sit there and type all the words in for it.
I just typed in the Patriarch superhero from Longbox Comics, and it kept making like old biblical prophets, so I guess I would have to give it better prompts. But my friend Mike, he can't draw, but he was just curious. He used ChatGPT and he made images of his character Marshall Strong that is exactly like
I heard ChatGPT is better, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I heard ChatGPT is really good.
So I don't know. My wife and I were just talking right before I went live with this. She's saying she feels bad for like not the movie stars because she like me she can't stand all these Hollywood movie stars, but she goes I feel bad for like these grips and electricians and the caterers because in another 3 years all movies are just going to be artificially generated. Why spend $200 million making an Avengers movie? Marvel and DC are just going to make computer generated AI movies. Maybe
probably be better than the ones that they're making, though.
Well, the thing
they'll
is,
probably pay for the license of an actor's looks. You know what I mean? And then just pay that actor. But
somebody's going to do chat. They've already tried AI comic books.
Yeah.
Zach wants to do one.
Yeah, I was just about to say that as if he couldn't kill his audience anymore. He's like the biggest champion for.
Oh, I know. I don't mind if he has an opinion about those YouTubers that always are negative. That's fine. That's a fine opinion. You know, I don't listen to them a lot either because it is all the negativity. But to say conservatives can't do art, just blanket statements, or Republicans can't do this, that I get annoyed at because I'm a conservative Republican and I do art. What is he talking about? He's not a Republican. Who the heck did he vote for?
I know.
Well, he also thought that Trump was going to lose.
Yeah. What bothers me is that he could draw.
A little bit. Yeah, I know.
He could draw. He was going to draw his own comic, and then he uses I can't draw. So, you know.
No, he did that comic book comic, right? And he was going to do his AI for that.
And I was just like, you know, I don't know. Like I backed just about everything Zach ever put out. You know, I'm pretty loyal that way. You know, I like you. I'm going to back all your stuff.
I know you do, yeah.
But I have to admit, like, I was biting my teeth. I'm like, these aren't good. These comics just aren't good.
They aren't good. I've never read one of his comics.
And there's a lot of stuff I've gotten. I got, what was it, Jawbreakers, that one he did for $1.
Yeah.
And that was a really interesting campaign that he did because he made great money, but I think his overhead, he didn't make anything profitable.
I don't know. I can't speak for that. But I will say that the art and all the Jawbreakers is good. The John Malin one was really good. The John Malin one, the first Jawbreaker, was a complete story. It made sense. I could read it. I could follow it through. But the second and third Jawbreakers were unreadable. Like especially this last one, Grand Bazaar. It was like it was almost as if he tripped and fell, and all the pages fell out, and then he just scooped them up in any random order and got it published.
And he's really late, and he's not late because of his letters or his artists. He's late because he won't put them out. He keeps fussing with it.
And I'll even forgive that. But what the final thing with him was, oh, you guys are bragging about late books. He goes, your books look like they came out on time. I'm like, okay.
I thought that was kind of odd.
Your book is 2 to 3 years late and it's unreadable. Your book is 2 years late and it sucks.
It's not even at the art. It's on the letter. It's on the story too.
You know what I mean? Like, so that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Like,
yeah, I could see that.
Okay, you know, like John Malin, I got mad at with writers are a dime a dozen. And it's okay. And then your book was unreadable crap. You know, it made no freaking sense.
What was it? The Godlike?
Yeah.
No, I mean the art looked great in it, but
the art, I still like John. Even that bad horse that he drew. I mean, that horse was bad. I'm not going to lie. But I would rather look at John Malin's art than Rob Liefeld's art.
He's like a better Liefeld in a lot of ways. Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
but I have to read it again. I feel like he tried to do something really ambitious, and he didn't stick.
Yeah, I give him credit for doing it. I was excited.
So but I do have to read it again. It was hard to read all at once. I did not read it all the way.
I looked forward to it, but when I got it, I was like, and because I'm a writer, you know, I'm looking at it, I'm going like, I wouldn't have done it like this. I wouldn't have done it like this. I wouldn't. You know, I can't go through it like that
I don't disagree.
You know,
which character?
He's had other stuff he's written. It's not as bad as Godlike, right?
He's never written anything.
From what I know, write anything else?
What I know, Literature Devil writes all of his stuff.
Well, I thought Mark Polton wrote a lot of it. No.
Yeah, Mark Polton wrote. I think Godlike. I mean, not Godlike. Graveyard Shift. Literature Devil wrote Godlike, and then I heard Literature Devil wrote Cyberfrog too.
I don't think Literature Devil wrote Cyberfrog. I think
Ethan's writing Cyberfrog. The way Ethan's going, he's writing Cyberfrog.
I think Literature Devil wrote Mighty Golden Patriot.
I don't know.
Don't ask him.
But
it's just an opinion, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, I'm not going there. I'm just leaving.
I'm still not going to blame Literature Devil for a bad script. I'm going to, because ultimately it's John Malin is the boss.
Oh, I agree.
No, because he, for all I know, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He probably wrote a good script and then turned it.
No, that's possible. Yeah.
But get back to you, boy, Zach. I loved Rock and Roll Ninja. You know,
but he didn't write Rock and Roll Ninja.
Right. That's what I'm.
It wasn't his idea either.
Impossible wasn't
his idea. He turned it over to Chuck, right?
Yeah, Chuck Dixon wrote them both. So Zach came up with the ideas, and then Chuck made them good. You know, but again, like if you're gonna say like, oh, your art sucks and stuff like, and then you put out crap, to me, that's
Oh,
I
sometimes
will suffer a fool. Like,
sometimes people can't see it, John. You know.
well,
Oh,
I look at God like, and my problem with it is it was literally the same thing that I was going to do with Heroic Tales 1. It was just going to be world building. I was going to introduce
Yeah, I
everybody
get that
to the
feeling.
world. You know, and then Brian Bow was just like, I don't care about any of your characters. I don't know who these are. These, you know,
Yeah.
everybody gets a
Yeah,
snippet.
yeah, I know.
I have no emotional. So I streamlined it. Maybe I streamlined it too much, you know, into just a patriarch. But like he goes, put the patriarch in your world and we'll learn your world. You know, Stan Lee didn't just tell us the whole world. You know, it was revealed in bits and
to the
pieces.
characters.
Right. So, but like
Question.
it's just like a bucket of chum over your head.
No, I see. Yeah, I figured as much. And you know, and to your point, I think that after reading Mary Sue, no spoilers, and after reading the script you have now, and I got to read it more, I got to print it out. I feel like you're getting better with the characters. Like now, it's the characters. It isn't just the story of Science City.
Well,
feel like
I was obsessed with
telling
my
the stories of
world.
the characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was
More than
obsessed
the
with my
world.
world, and I wanted to show everybody. Now I'm just like, you reveal the world through character. Reveal the world.
Yeah, I
through
really feel like you're doing that. I was giving you a compliment. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
So I have a question for you guys.
sure.
Did you go over and read that manga I sent you?
Did I not yet? No. I've
No.
been driving all week. I'll do it this weekend. My wife is
Because I'm
gone.
gonna tell you this. The artwork is going to surprise you. I will say this: the artwork is unbelievably good,
I
and
read Mike Barron's book.
the story wise, it's a futuristic western. That's what it is. So if you like reading westerns, and I would say it kind of equals like Jimmy Palmiotti's writing, in a way when he does his western.
Oh, so somebody else wrote it besides you?
Yeah, I did. No, I
That's
do.
what
I don't
Jimmy
like
Palmiotti writes. Somebody else writes it.
Dude, as much,
James,
Does anybody believe that?
believe it or not, it's even though Jim's on one side of the fence, I'm on the other side of the fence when it comes to politics.
Jimmy's impossible.
I can sit there and talk with him all day about scripts
Right.
and stories.
No, he's super nice guy. I was
I
talking.
mean,
to him
he's a great guy.
But
You know, he's a great guy. I mean, I love right now his Gunslinger Tales of the Gunslinger Spawn has been a fantastic book. That whole thing has been fantastic. I am so happy Todd went and got him to do that book.
he talks about politics just like my sister. He talks about politics like my sister. Like it's very feminine. It's all feelings,
You know,
not facts. You know what I mean?
But I'm saying, no, but I'm saying when you read it, it's really good. They did a really good job with it, and it's really taken off. I think
Yeah, his real writer is really good.
Justin Gray.
yeah, but seriously, if you like I said, you can read the first 3 chapters for free. That's the other thing. That's the other thing. When you look at the website, which is Viz Shogun Jump, there's so much you can read there for free.
Yeah, I was noticing that.
And not only that, but what they do is once they get like 6 or 7 chapters, they'll release it out of a book, and then everybody goes and buys the book. So they're getting you both ways. If you really want to read everything, you can pay $4.50 a month to read everything they got on the website.
Cool. Now, instead of selling somebody else's comic, let's sell my comic now.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
So this is Heroic Tales. It's live right now. I'm up to 102 backers, over $3,000. For every $1,000, I just want to scroll to the bottom here, so forgive the motion sickness. But we got the Mary Sue card up, so you can see that that's unlocked. The next card is going to be the King Fu, and then I bumped King Fu up, even though he has a small role, because I think people really like that character. And then I'm going to introduce the cards as importance of the story. So some of the bad guys will be next because they're important to the story, things like that. And then I made 1 billion cards, so I made 20 cards. I don't have any illusions that we're going to make $23,000, although that would be nice. So I got the next couple of campaigns cards already made. You know, so there we go. But somebody was just emailing me, how do I get the cards from the first campaign? They're here. So if you buy the comic, you could here, let me scroll up. I'm sorry for the motion sickness. We got add-ons over here. So I might as well start the beginning. You can get digital, issue number 2 for $6. You can get issue 1 and 2 for $10. You can get the regular, I call it the Renzo cover A, $10. You know, I can't do anything about shipping, so shipping's included. So buy a bunch of stuff, get the best deal. This is I call this the Josh and Jose cover. remember it's a flip book, so you get 2 covers for every comic. This is the cosplay cover, and then we're gonna have a cover bundle. Both covers, and I didn't think of the cosplay cover. I should make another bundle. Didn't even think of it. If you get a bundle, message me if you want the cosplay bundle. So this is the Heroic Tales, both versions of issue 2. This is issue 1 and issue 2 bundled, and now cover of your choice. So you can add on $10. There you go. Josh, Luke already thought of it, and you can pick whatever cover you want. I should say the cosplay cover, and then all the covers from issue 1, pint glass, coins, the big coins, the T-shirt, the Mary Sue shirt, the King Fu Memphis Fist hoodie. So this with the Tennessee Dragon on the back. And somebody just emailed me. They want to get the cards from the first series. So if you're watching this is how you do it. You pay, it's $10. You could get all 7 cards. I'm pretty much breaking even on that. I'm just hoping, and then the original art. These are one unique thing. You buy these, they're gone. You buy these, and please buy them, because if you don't, I will. And, it's so cool just because they're sitting right there. I just want to put a frame of my character, hanging up on the wall. You know what I mean? Rezik77 says, I think creators fall into 3 groups: writers, artists, and writer-artist hybrids. I think only a few creators can both write and draw, while most can only do one of the. I totally agree. I would say that the best comics are probably made by writer-artists. Like, I look at guys like, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I look at guys like John Byrne, who wrote and drew his own stuff, or Frank Miller, or Walt Simonson, or Will Eisner. Oh,
I just got Walt Simonson's autograph.
Oh, good, cool. He's a cool guy.
He signed a Superman for me.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, but I can't. I mean, I can draw. Everybody can draw. Let's be real, and everybody can write. It's just a degree of, will somebody pay for it or not?
There's a difference between writing and storytelling.
Yes, I agree with that.
And that's the key to it.
And the same thing with art. You could draw a picture. You could draw a static picture, but could you draw a series of pictures that make sense?
Correct.
James, you're a writer and an artist, so maybe you have some insight for this. I always bring up Howard Chaykin as an example of a great artist who's bad at storytelling.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, good. Yeah.
The funny thing was, I started out as just strictly an artist, and then I ended up getting into writing, and it became my forte for a while. And then I came back to drawing again, and now I'm back to being doing both.
But are you an extreme artist like Marcus?
Well, let's put it like this: I had a couple of tryouts, but
James, you've been funny about. I'm thinking about changing my name. That should have been Extreme Artist.
Oh, yes, just Extreme Artist Marcus Killigrew.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that.
Yeah, Mark actually gave me 2 tries. So. And,
I really can't believe he said that.
Rob
Rob
gave me 2 tries. Mark Sylvester gave me 4. So.
Okay, so we've been filibustering for enough. As much fun as it is, I enjoy the chit chat. Let's get down to the brass taxes. So we're talking about Asgard versus Olympus. So we got 2. Since it's my channel and I'm here all the time, I'll step back and I'll let my 2 co-hosts over here. So we'll start with Marcus. Who do you want to champion? Do you want to be the champion for Asgard or champion for Olympus?
Well, I guess Olympus. I'm not going to be a champion for Asgard. I mean, they're going to get creamed.
So you want to champion Olympus?
Just the list of deities you go through on Olympus. Even the humans, the heroes,
standards, or we going by
the Asgardians. I mean, we know so much more. Go ahead, James.
Are we going mythological or are we going combat?
I think we'll start with mythological, and then.
So
you're going to take a little different, yeah.
So you're going to go with Greece on mythological, right, Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this. You have. And, Olympus, we know the Mount Olympus, there really is a Mount Olympus. And you're just looking at it, chronic, they have Hades and Persephone, Zeus, Poseidon, Hermes. They're all son of Zeus with a billion different women. He slept with a dog and created god. One came from his head, which I forget which one that was.
Athena.
Yeah, Athena somehow. And then the mightiest one is half human, Heracles. And it's hard. Everybody knows a little about the Greek deities and Roman deities. They're basically very similar. Because we have so much information on them. There's so many statues. You go to Greece and all over. Whereas like the Asgardians, we don't have as much information on them.
Yeah, well, actually, we do have quite a bit of information on the Asgardians because you have Thor, Loki, Balder, Regan, Frigga, Odin, Heimdall, Tyr, Vilder. I mean, I can go through them, but if we really sit down and look at everything, Zeus is not Odin. Zeus would line up with Thor. I mean, that's basically what it is. Zeus and Thor would be match up against each other. Odin is a lot tougher. Odin would actually have to be matched up with, say, one of the Titans, like Zeus's father. That would have to be where Odin would have to go up against.
Odin is more with like Kronos or Saturn.
Yeah, correct. So you'd have a bigger, that would be the fight. But when you look at everything, and I'm gonna have to, I think the Asgardian gods are not as well defined and is not as well organized as the Greek gods. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense.
Because yes, there is a bunch, and yes, they do things, but they're not in it as a group. They're more in it for themselves. You know what I'm saying?
The Asgardians?
The Asgardians.
Seer, as they're called in mythology.
Yeah,
right.
Because if you look at their mythology is, Ragnarok, that's going to end in rebirth. And at the end of that, they're all gone. That's just basically what it is.
Right, I'm gonna bring up the rear with my thoughts.
But I think when you look at, I had to pull up I'd have to bring in another mythology, but I'm not going to do it. But I would say that the Greek gods, which are actually older, because when we look back at everything, they were much older. They were before even Alexander the Great. They were way before him, before he showed up, way before Thermopylae and all that stuff. They were already established before Thermopylae happened, before Sparta became what they were. So they've been around a lot longer than the Norse gods. But there's a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah. Marcus, anything you want?
Well, I guess I think you're underselling Zeus a little bit. He did overthrow the Titans.
Well, yeah, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, when you look at power to power, Zeus and Thor would be a much better matchup than Zeus versus Odin.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Let's start. I'm going to talk a little bit about Greek mythology. I started out, my first love, even almost like synonymous with comic books, was Greek mythology. I don't know how it happened, where this book came from, but I got a little hardcover Edith Hamilton's mythology. It was just always in my house. My brothers must have got it or something, and it was one of the books I learned to read with. Now, I tell the story in third grade. I couldn't read, like you just faked it up until that point, and then my friends gave me comics, and because of comic books, I wanted to learn how to read, and I got like obsessed with reading. And Edith Hamilton's mythology was one of those early books that I didn't get it. I didn't get it, but I never stopped. So I have like a very emotional attachment to Greek mythology. But that book also, the last third is Norse mythology, so it has both. But so in the beginning there was chaos. And chaos was like this. Actually, in the beginning there was cosmos. Cosmos meaning like everything, and then there was the sky, Uranus, and the land, Gaia, and before that there was chaos, which was like this primordial. We don't know what it was. Everything was separated, and we had the Titans. Now, when we say Titans, we think of these gigantic, colossal beings. You know what I mean?
Right.
I always looked at the Titans as just another tribe of gods. You know, you had
they're
the
the old gods.
yeah, they're the old gods, the Titans, and then you had the Olympians. Like those are the names of the tribes. I don't know. Maybe other people think differently.
The Olympians are the children of
Right.
Gaia and Kronos and what was her name? It's escaping, but they were the children of Kronos.
And I always looked at the Titans for it's not perfect description, but I always looked at the Titans were like abstract concepts or non-material concepts. Like you had time, like Kronos was time, and I think he was also gravity. And then you had like night, light, darkness, and beings like that. And then the gods were like matter, like oceans, fire, crafting. You know what I mean? I know it's not perfect, but this is the way I always thought of it as a kid. And you had the three brothers: Zeus, god of the sky; Hades, god of the underworld; and Poseidon, god of the oceans. And then this is a little fact that we always forget about. All three of them ruled the earth. Because Poseidon was also the god of earthquakes. And I was like, how is he the god of earthquakes? He's the god of the oceans. His specific domain is the ocean, and he shares the earth with Zeus and Hades, whereas Hades is underground. That was their compromise. Now, what James said is correct. Odin is probably more synonymous with Zeus, with Saturn, because now I lost my train of thought. But Odin, I'll get to the Norse mythology later. And so anyway, there was this great being Typhon, and Typhon was this embodiment of the ocean and chaos and disorder and destruction. And Typhon was like a million mouths and whatever, and he was this chaotic being that just scared the crap out of everybody. And all the gods couldn't defeat it until like they all teamed up, and then Zeus used the thunderbolt. They threw it into Tartarus, trapped it below even Hades and everything. There was these great battles, and it was made clear that like Zeus was the deciding factor. All the gods together couldn't defeat this thing until Zeus got there. He was like the planet Jupiter is named after Zeus. Jupiter is the Roman name for Zeus, and they say that except for the sun, 99% of the matter in our solar system is Jupiter. And I always thought like 99% of the Greek gods was Zeus. Like it's wonderful. I don't know if that's true, but this is the way
it seems like it.
Yeah. And Zeus was god of the sky father, the all father. Just so he had, and then like James said, he had side chicks all over the place, much to his dismay of his wife and sister Hera. And there's all these stories of Hera can't punish Zeus, so she would punish the children, which is like
no. There's one story where she finally had enough of him, and she let him have it.
And which one was that?
Hera let him have it when the gods rebelled against Zeus. Hera was the one behind it. She had enough of his playing with women and everything, and that's when they chained him and everything.
It didn't stop him.
No, once he got free, he paid him back. So
yeah.
But I'm saying she finally put her foot down.
There was 12 Olympians, the 12 great Olympians. There was Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, Apollo's sister Artemis,
Athena,
Hermes, Athena, Hestia, Aphrodite, and Ares. And Dionysus was the 13th. He came later. I'll talk about Dionysus in a bit. Right. He's kind of fascinating. Did I mention all 12? And did I say Ares? And
I think Demeter, Ares.
Demeter is the one I left out. Demeter is
the one, yeah.
And they're kind of in Norse mythology. I mean, some people are going to say that Zeus and Odin are the same. Some people are going to say Thor, and you can make arguments about them both. But like Tyre to me is Ares because they're both gods of war. Frigg is Hera. Loki is like Hermes. The god.
Loki is a completely the way we look at Loki is, oh, he's an Asgardian god who was a trickster and like that. No, he wasn't an Asgardian god. He was a frost giant.
He was a frost giant, and he was Odin's brother. He was Odin's blood brother, not his son.
He was Odin's adopted. There was a trade off with one of the. But that's why he took him in. He was never blood to Odin or to Thor.
Loki's trickster is more like a Native American god, where a trickster is very important.
Yeah, he's a coyote. Loki's a lot like Wendigo.
And indigenous peoples of Native American lore. That's what Loki's more like.
That's where you get Wendigo, the coyote. The trickster. And then you have like Phrygia and stuff like that. So when you look at the Greek god and the Norse gods, they're not all quote unquote Norse gods. They're like frost giants and other things put together. They're not like the Olympians, where they're 13 Olympians. They're all gods.
The Norse gods, like Logic's Finest says, they were older Germanic gods. Well, the Greek gods or the Roman gods were also from pre. There's some Babylonian. So
if you go back, the oldest ones are the Sumerian gods. This is where you get the name Tiamat from. This is where you get the name Nimrod. This is where you get Ishtar. This is actually where you get El, which is the Jewish god, and this is also where you get the name Allah, which is also part of it. Which all of those are from that one pantheon from the Sumerian gods.
Right. Yeah, and Lil and everything. It's the people migrated and moved. I definitely think that the people that moved down into the Greeks moved up to the north and carried some of the similar traits, because you have a hammer god, you have the ocean god. I mean, yes, if you're nature worshiping,
if you watch everything, even when you go Egypt, if you take Egypt, if you take Greek, if you take Roman and you take Norseman, there's so much connections between the four.
Right.
There's that you can pick and choose which ones they took.
Like Ishtar is Astarte, which is also Ashereth from the early Hebrews. Everybody forgets that there was a female god that kind of got forgotten about, and then there was Aphrodite. It's all pretty much.
Basically, it was Artemis. Is what it was.
Right. Astara. Forgive me for butchering some of these names, but but they're all together, and even some of the myths kind of overlap. Like because the Aryan people, a word that you're not allowed to use anymore because of a funny little Prussian mustache man, but that was an accepted thing. What's that?
Well, the so-called Aryan race was fictitious. There's not that it doesn't go far. It doesn't go that far back. So that was something he made up.
He made up his, but there was the Indo-Europeans, which was the Aryan people. They came from like the Russian steppes through Iran. The Persians called themselves the Aryans.
Right.
Those people came and conquered Greece or settled in Greece, whatever you want to say. But they went through India and they brought their gods with them. Like the Aryan god is Deus Pitar, and that is Sky Father. And then when it came to Greece, it became Zeus Pater. And when it became to Rome, it became Jew Pater. These are all traced all the way back from the Medes. It's all the same people that through interbreeding and migrations and moving. Yeah. I don't know for a fact, but I'm going to say they must have went up north too. I mean, I would go down to the beaches in the warm areas, me personally.
But I mean, you go where you need to go to survive.
Right. You follow the guy in front of you back then because
yeah, you did. And like I said, the oldest thing we've got is down in Iraq, that area down there between the Euphrates River. That's the oldest records we can find. That's the oldest. That's where everything looks like it started at, and that's where you get that pantheon with Tiamat and everything. And then you see it branch off, going India, and then going toward Greece and going toward Africa, and then it just slowly migrated through everything. So that's the thing. But then you get into other, stranger places like the gods of Japan and so like that, which are completely different and everything. So
the Greek mythology, like again, I think who was it? Logic Finest said, for whatever reason, Hollywood seemed to latch onto it. But America has like an emotional attachment to Rome and Greece. You know, if you go to the Smithsonian Institute, you could see a statue of George Washington in the toga. You know,
they built the Parthenon
that has a lot.
Nashville. If you go to Nashville, no, it's Memphis. They've got a full size Parthenon with Athena in it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
you didn't tell me you're going to go to go to Memphis.
America has a lot to do. That's because of the government as well.
Right. You're going to tell me you go to Memphis and there's a statue of Athena, not of Elvis Presley? This country got to get its shit together.
That's been there since like the early 1940s.
I'm joking. They're going to put one up of King Fu because he's from Memphis.
They've been putting up these weird statues recently in all the big cities. So
yeah.
I'm afraid to say a boo because I get in trouble. So
yeah, I saw that one. I was like, going, really?
Yeah, really. Anyway, what I was going to say is why we're linked. America's linked because of the form of government.
Right.
With democracy and republic, the senators, our basis is all on the Greece basis of government.
we have the
that, and the running water, the aqueducts as well.
And besides that, what else has the Romans done for us?
The Romans and the Greek. I mean, that's all based on that. I mean, I know they had emperors, they really didn't have presidents, but they had senators. That whole way of doing things, as opposed to the parliamentary government that's in Europe. Our founders look back to the Greeks and the Romans for their form of government.
Yeah, everything. Our government is set up basically like Greek was and Rome was, except we have in our Congress we have both houses instead of just having a Senate. We have
that's true.
House representative.
I was also thinking, and this is another thing that made me think about why did Stan and Jack first? I don't know. Jack Kirby always had an affinity for Thor because he used Thor and Odin in several stories before he started at Marvel.
I think
Marvel he did a Thor story.
Wasn't he?
I wonder if he
have Scandinavian background?
I wonder why he had that. Did he thought they were different than just having another Hercules? Like they were already in the movies, it would be different than Hollywood.
He might have looked at Thor and stuff like that, but he might, I don't know what his family line is, but he might have connections.
Well, he's Jewish.
Oh, he's Jewish. Well, okay.
So he'd be Eastern European, I think.
Well, so I read an interview with Jack Kirby, and he specifically said why Thor, because the Greek. And I guess we're jumping to a point, but the Greek gods are almost perfect.
Right.
The Greek gods.
You're right.
Thor's not. Yeah, Thor's not.
Even in Star Trek, when Apollo shows up, they're like, we this guy's unbeatable kind of thing. The Greek gods were DC.
Whereas
the Norse gods were Marvel. So Jack and Stan liked Thor because the Norse gods had vulnerabilities. They could be defeated. They knew fear. They bled. They could die. The Norse gods to me were superheroes. So that's why I like the Jack Kirby representation of them. Of it, are they really gods or are they just advanced aliens kind of thing?
Like Thor, the real Thor. You read about him. He has a terrible anger. He's terribly angry. He's standoffish. He'll kill anybody.
He drinks a lot.
Yeah, the Greek gods weren't bastions of morality either. They were actually pretty hard.
Yeah, neither one of them.
Talking about their power levels. The Greek gods were DC power levels.
So who do you think is the most popular, not comic book heroes, popular Greek god? Hercules. Why did they use Hercules, the Roman version, instead of Heracles? I would say it's that one because he's half human.
Well,
he's not all God.
Why Hercules is the most popular because he's got a great story. The 12 labors of Hercules. We see him struggle, and it's all strength, and it's all masculine, and it's
the thing is, though, they've taken the story and they've changed it compared to the original.
Right. I'm not talking about Disney. Disney is right out of this conversation.
No, I'm not talking about Disney either. I'm talking about comics. I'm talking about everybody who talks about him, even in the movies.
But you could also say he was a demigod. He wasn't a full god.
No,
it's easier for him to have a great story.
But his story, he commits murder more than once and he kills his
But
own
that's
wife.
part of the
and
human story. Humans
kids.
commit
I
murder.
understand it.
He
But I'm
killed his
saying
wife and his
you don't
kids.
see that in a lot of the stories they portray now. You don't see that with him. But I think the reason everybody looked at Hercules was he was, like you said, half human, and he had a connection between human and the deities.
That's what I was kind of getting at.
Yeah, he was the most flawed, and
Right, that's what I was getting at. Yes, yeah.
flawed. Zeus was flawed, but Zeus wasn't flawed in his power. Zeus was flawed because he was a horny old guy. Hermes. My favorite Greek is Hermes. I just love this. He's crafty, tricky guy. He never really does anything evil or anything like that. He'll do things. I don't know, like almost like you wink. That's scamp. But like Ares, he could be described as evil, as Athena. But Hercules. Out of all the Greek gods, you could have a beer with Hercules. You know what I mean? Like
right.
Yeah, he's one of the boys. Yeah, he's one of the boys.
The Greek gods were cruel to humanity. Yeah. Like half the people were like they appeased the Greek gods. They didn't necessarily worship them. Like you worshipped Apollo so that he wouldn't give you a plague. We forget one of Apollo's titles was plague bringer. And Artemis. She's the most beautiful woman in the world, but if you catch her naked taking a bath, and it's not even your fault, you're just walking down the road.
Aphrodite was.
Well, Artemis, she turned Callisto into a bear.
Well, yeah, but
her naked.
He went after Callisto was because he got jealous of Callisto.
Aphrodite would.
Aphrodite's what was the one that
she started the Trojan War because
no, that was
it was the three goddesses, yeah. But
did that. But no, you have Athena. Athena is the most jealous god because look what she did to Medusa.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, Poseidon raised Medusa inside Athena's temple. Instead of her going after Poseidon, she does what she does to.
Well, she could go after Poseidon. That's one of the big. That's one of the big guys.
Yeah, and then she cursed Medusa.
And then look at Hera. She tried to kill baby Hercules in the cradle.
Hera tried to kill quite a few of Zeus's kids besides Hercules. I mean,
Yes. So I remember my Greek professor, beautiful woman. I try to remember her name, but she was just like livid when the Hercules movie came out, and she was just like, how could Hercules be going Mom to Hera? He goes, it's not her mother. They hate each other.
Which one? Oh, you mean the cartoon?
Yeah, the Disney cartoon.
There's so much stuff.
I like the Disney cartoon though.
It's a fun cartoon. I enjoyed it. Movie. But that one, not the one with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but the one that was done the same year, but with the guy with the blonde hair played it. It was a cheaper version made in Europe. That one was pretty good. That one was really good because it showed him having to do the labors, why he did the labors, everything.
I did like that. I like that Disney cartoon though. I've watched that several. My kids like that.
And I've also seen.
It didn't have to be perfect. They could read the other stuff.
And then you go watch the Steve Reeves Hercules, and it's basically he's Superman.
Yeah, but Steve Reeves is awesome.
Oh no, dude, I love Steve Reeves, man.
Boy, he would have been a good Superman.
Oh, dude. Have you seen the pictures without his beard?
No.
He's got the jawline. He's got the hair. He's got the bod. He's Superman. I don't care what anybody says. Steve Reeves was Superman.
Well, he has the correct last name.
Yeah,
and he had the first. He was the first one.
Right.
He was the first one with the name too. And he outlived the other two.
Sidney Sweeney.
So another big difference between the Greeks and the Norse is the Norse had a built-in end. They knew that they would do.
True.
They knew that what they would do, everything would be destroyed. The cycle would start over again, and they were temporary. They were temporary. They were to me they were elevated humans. They needed to
become the new guy.
They had many weaknesses. They would grow old and die if not for the apples of Idun. Whereas the Greek gods,
they were gods.
They were gods.
They were gods.
When Hercules ascended into godhood, that was it.
Yeah, he was there.
He was there forever. The only story, a story that I'm actually very fascinated with, I'm going to incorporate it in heroic tales in some form or another, is Dionysus. So Dionysus was not of the original 12. Dionysus is the son of Zeus and Semele, I think is how you pronounce her name. And Semele basically like got Zeus all horny, and Zeus said, just let me get in some of that, and I'll do whatever you want. So he impregnated her, and then she said, I want to see you in your full form. So Zeus revealed himself in his full glory, and it burnt her to ash. And he took the embryo, stuck it in his leg, and then hid to hide it from his wife Hera. And then later, Hermes had to basically do like a slice down Zeus' thigh and pull out the baby Dionysus. There's so much in that story. First off, there's no, like, Odin could shape change, Loki could shape change, but there was never any indication that they were anything other than their flesh and blood. They were bones. Even the giants, when they killed these giants, they made mountains out of their bones. They made oceans out of their blood. They used their skulls to do this and that. Zeus never concealed himself in flesh form. He was flesh form. But that story makes you, like, these Greek gods were like, these forms that they revealed themselves to men were like avatars,
That's the way I look at it. And a lot of people hate this movie, but the last one that they did with the Egyptian gods, and the gods would actually show their true form. They got a lot taller, a lot brighter and stuff, and you got to see like Anubis as Anubis, and Set as Set, and you got to see Horus as Horus with his wings and everything. And he was so much, he was so much taller. I mean, so much bigger. I mean, the humans were like came up to like mid thigh compared to how big he was. And that was that kind of relates to what would happen if you saw Zeus. But he got really bright.
The human mind couldn't, like, him showing up uncloaked destroyed a human, burnt her to ash. So, like, to me, that's
Logic, I agree. Yes, Logic, I agree. I was just using that one as an example. I didn't, I was just making an example. I do agree that they've never gotten them right.
Yeah, the Egyptian gods are hard to understand. I as much as I love mythology, the Egyptian gods confuse me. Also, we keep in mind that the Egyptian culture has changed so many times that it's almost like 4 or 5 different cultures built on top of each other, like Ice Cream Sam, and their gods changed. And it's
it depends on where you were. Were you in the north or were you in the south? And that's where it changed.
Yeah, that's what I'm explaining. The fact that, like, it's pretty big, it's so vast, it's different time periods. These beings believe this, and me being an anal retentive who likes to put everything in chronological order, I gave up on the Egyptian gods. The Japanese gods are pretty easy to categorize. The Japanese are very, very structured people, and I appreciate that. But the Egyptians, it's tough.
Yeah, right. Anubis is not the god of death. He's the one that transitions somebody from one plane to the other. He's basically like Sharon the ferryman.
Right. Yeah, I would absolutely love, like, if anybody could recommend a good documentary on the Egyptian gods and things like that.
Yeah, there's
not a history of Egypt. I'm pretty good with the history of Egypt.
No, there's one I saw it the other night. It's on YouTube, but it goes over the Egyptian gods one at a time and explains where they came from and how they were done.
Oh, so I want to get back to Dionysus. So now Dionysus, I forget where he grew up in the East. I think he grew up in Turkey, Asia Minor. And then when he was a child, he dressed as a woman, and he had one purple eye and one blue eye or something like that. And he was the first to discover grapes, and he turned it into whatever. He made wine and everything like that. And he invented wine, made madness and all of this, and blah, blah, blah. But he came to Greece, and there's stories of the Greeks fighting the cult of Dionysus. They didn't want the cult of Dionysus. And eventually he came from the north, they defeated him. Came from the south, they defeated him. He made his way into Greece proper and demanded a seat of the 12. But they were like, there's only 12 thrones. And Hestia, the goddess of the hearth and fire, surrendered and left, and he took over. That is such a powerful myth. To me, it shows the heart of the Greek and Roman world was the family life, the home, and it got replaced by like madness, transgenderism, and everything else. And then the Greek culture was destroyed. So I always view Dionysus as the death of Greece. So view that as you will. What's going on? Dionysus is a re-emerging from his slumber and taking over the West these days. So Dionysus is the death of civilization is my point. That's my interpretation of it. The mileage may vary. But anyway,
it's interesting. See, every one has something to do with transgenderism is basically it's the end of civilization in a lot of these myths. It's not just the Greek myth. It's happening now. Yeah. That is the disaster. That is
look at Egobalus, the first transgender Roman Empire. Mm-hmm. Almost, things like that.
No, but you're talking about favorite thing. The one that I've always liked was when Penelope and Hades got together.
Yeah, that's a good myth too.
Because the thing about it is he did kidnap her, but she stayed with him and she ended up marrying him, and she was the one. They were kind of the it couple. They kind of actually wanted to be with each other and wanted to as they went on.
Did they?
Like the other ones?
Because the Edith Hamilton book uses a different word than kidnap.
Well, okay, so no. So what? No, he actually came up, grabbed her, and took her down into the underworld. I would say kidnap falls underneath that, and anything that you want to add to it falls underneath the word kidnap. So yes.
And that's she's the goddess of the seasons. Her mother, Demeter or Ceres, is the mother of growing food. One of Zeus's sisters.
Because when she cried, because when of course she goes down to the underworld, we get winter and fall and winter, and then when she comes back, we get spring and summer.
That was the only time. That's a good. I'm glad you brought that up, James. That was the only Greek myth that the Greek gods revealed any vulnerability, because Demeter, the Earth Mother, Da Mater, Earth Mother, she refused to let anything grow in mourning.
She wanted her daughter back.
Yeah, and Zeus said that the mortals are going to die off, and without them to worship us, we will die off, or at least according to
Zeus had to step in on that one.
So Zeus had to step. That was I forgot about that. Glad you brought that up. That's the first time that we heard of any weakness in the, or maybe he said will be forgotten about, or maybe it was just a vanity thing. I don't know.
But yeah, they had to keep. It was very important to keep the thing going on, and all the kids, man, they had a lot of kids too.
But as far as I know, the Norse mythology never said that they specifically needed worship. They just liked it,
they always talk about Ragnarok. Everything's going to happen in Ragnarok. There's going to be Ragnarok this, that. Not what Marvel did, but I'm talking about mythology. Everything was going to fall apart, and they're all going to be gone.
So,
tree and everything.
So I look at the people that created these guys. Like, we don't know the original Greeks, the ones who spoke Linear B. We can't even read Linear B. The Greeks that Homer talked about in the Iliad. Those were the Mycenaean Greeks. We don't really know about them except from the stories. They're almost like lost. The Sea Peoples. The Phoenician.
Sea people, that's the one that everybody's trying to figure out who they are.
Right, yeah.
They came out of nowhere and hit everybody.
Yeah, I like to think of them as deep ones. Cthulhu people came and ate the Greeks.
I don't know where they came from. The only records I've seen, because they wiped out a lot of places. Egypt was one that was able to survive, but they really did a lot of damage, and then they left. And I was like, what happened to them?
They came, like, were they Minoans? Were they the Atlanteans?
I don't know.
I know it's fun to speculate. And here we got 3 comic book people over here. This is just ripe for a story,
For me,
right.
They're in the Bible. They're in Roman documentation, they're in Greek documentation, they're in like
Egyptian
Anatolian documentation. Like all of these people agree that these freaking strangers came
came out and whipped our butts.
Yeah, and then left. You know, I would love to learn more about them. The story of Orpheus and Eurydice shows how cruel the Greek gods were. The most tragic Greek mythology story ever, showing compassion to humans. They were cruel. Yes, and Orpheus and Eurydice is also one of the original mystery cults, where for the most part the Greeks just worshipped the pantheon of gods. But then later on, they started to get specialties, and there was priests that worshipped just Dionysus, like the female priests, they were the Maenads, and then there was priests that worshipped Orpheus. And they had the secrets. These were called Eleusinian mysteries. They were mystery cults. And what they did was the Greek underworld was kind of a dour place. You went there, but you know, whether you were a king or not, you didn't. But then they came up with like the Elysian fields, where it was like a paradise under it. This all came from like a specialty like of Orpheus. Orpheus went to the underworld and came back. He was proto Jesus, you know, and that. My wife is rediscovering her Christianity. We were talking a lot about it. I pronounced her name wrong. I'm sure I pronounced a lot of names wrong. I pronounced. How do you? I know it's spelt Eurydice, but I'm sure it's pronounced something. Eurydice. I don't know. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. But anyway, when Paul, the apostles sent Paul to Greece to preach, basically to get rid of him. You know, they couldn't stand him. You know, Saul, go. You never met Jesus, whatever. And the Greeks were indifferent. They're like, we don't care about this Jewish king. You know,
No,
he kind of changed it around to like a mystery cult and sold it.
what Paul did, because they had places, and there was a place where there was nothing. There was the podium, but there was nothing there. And so what Paul did, and Paul is a really smart Roman citizen. He said, I'm telling you about this guy. And he pointed to the platform that didn't have anything there. He said, that's who I'm talking about. And that's when it resonated with the Greeks. Because that's how he did it. That's you know, because they had all the gods sitting there, and he was like, I'm talking about this guy. And that's when he
Logic, can you phonetically spell how you say Eurydice? Now I'm wondering how you actually. I always said Eurydice, but I'm sure it's wrong. Every once in a while, I hear like a funny pronunciation of a Greek god. I'm like, oh, that's how you pronounce. Like, you know, like Cyclops is really pronounced like Cyclops. Like the C's are pronounced like K's and things like that. Like instead of saying the Cyclades, you'd say the Cyclades. Circe is really pronounced like Kirce, and I used to say hectate, but it's
not aluminum, it's aluminium.
Yeah. So anyway, the culture of Greece, they were intellectuals, they were inventors, they were philosophers and thinkers, and their gods were like all powerful constructs created by thinkers. Whereas the Norse gods, these were made by people who were always constantly ready to die, like they were about to starve to death. It was a harsh. Greece was a harsh environment.
Yeah, but the Norse gods, that cold environment the whole time, and the Vikings constantly conquering, a violent nomads, really.
Yeah,
Eurydice.
Gods. Man, I've been saying that really wrong. Thank you.
Frost giants, you know, like you could, if you just think of just think of Minnesota, like how cold is it in the United States, in Montana and Minnesota in the winter? That's what it's like there all the time.
Right.
Like most of the year.
Think of Alaska.
Yeah.
Right.
And not only that, but think of it without indoor plumbing. You know,
and you have the northern lights.
Indoor plumbing back then.
That's what I'm saying.
Northern lights. You have the dark for half, all day and night. No sun for part of. You could see why they're nastier, meaner, drunker, rowdier.
And to the point where the word Viking literally means rape and pillage. Like they were going a Viking. Like they would get into a boat and they would leave for months because it was the only way for their culture to live. They had to bring back women. They had to bring back food. They had to bring back goods because they lived in the freaking.
That's how you got the Normans, because the Normans were Vikings that lived in the land of Normandy, so they're known as the Norsemen, which is Normandy.
Right.
So they were known as Normans, and when they invaded England.
So these people whose culture was like day-to-day survival, their gods were war. Like literally the guys who survived in the Viking times were the meanest sons of bitches. You know, the best with the warriors. You know,
The biggest, the strongest, the meanest, the toughest,
the craftiest too. Like if you couldn't, if I couldn't beat up Marcus Kellegrew in a fight, I would have to outsmart him. You know what I mean? So that's why you got like Loki's and
if you go today to Norway or Sweden, and the people that were born there, that have been raised there like that, the average height of a man in Norway is 6'3". That's the average guy. The average girl is 6'1" to 6'2".
Well, I was in Iceland a couple of years ago, and I will say this: it's all beautiful people.
Oh, yeah.
The women are gorgeous. The men are handsome, and fat Americans like me cannot get T-shirts. So I actually had to buy a T-shirt and slim down to fit into it.
But my sister-in-law, who is from Norway, is 6'2". My niece and nephew, my nephew's 6'5", my niece is 6'3".
Yep, big, tall. But we all know that the original Vikings were black. You know, we've.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Netflix.
Oh my, yeah. Oh boy, they get hammered by that, because I mean, when you got people that like me who can trace all the way back to like 120 AD, there ain't no black people there, man. There never was.
What did you think of Twilight of the Gods or Blood of Zeus on Netflix? I didn't watch them yet. They're on my
I
tube.
don't have Netflix, so I don't.
I'm really bad about watching things. If I have free time to watch something, I read comics. You know.
Oh, we just finished watching 1923.
I'm usually watching anime.
So I gotta. You know, I literally feel guilty if I'm sitting there watching something. I'm like, I should be reading these stacks of comics.
This country in 1923 was brutal.
Yeah.
1923?
Really brutal.
My grandparents were alive back then.
1923 Montana. Like, out, you could say it's not so brutal, say 1923 New York City. But Montana, I mean, they're still conquering the West. It was brutal. What a brutal show.
Up until like the 1890s, you had neighborhoods in Manhattan that if you went to and you weren't German, or you went to and you weren't Irish, or if you went to and you were Protestant, you would get murdered and left.
Nobody cared.
Oh, nobody cares.
And not only that, but you look at the pictures back then. Like
I enjoyed it.
Like 1905, 1910, and there's still horse-drawn carriages going through Manhattan.
I enjoyed it. I thought the first episode and a half were kind of slow as they were setting things up. But as you realize, they were telling you what life is, how to travel from South Africa over to Montana, how brutal that was, dehumanizing. I thought that there was no good law enforcement in it. There was some stuff that I felt like all the stories that you hear about that are bad immigration stories back then that are tough were all in this. Like, you know how they do that? And they say all the little stories, they put it into one story, and the poor woman goes through hell. And you know it didn't happen to one person, but it happened to like 5 different people. That's kind of how I kind of felt. But it ended up having heroes and real villains. And then there was a terrible treatment of the Native Americans and the Indians. And some of it was a little over the top, but by the end it was enjoyable. Yeah. I guess.
So back to the Greeks.
Answer the question. Sorry.
So the Norse suffered wounds. Tyr had his hand bitten off.
Yeah.
Oh, we got killed.
The Norse.
Fenris, right?
Yeah. The Fenrir wolf bit his hand off. They feared Odin and everybody. They were afraid of the giants at some point. When Loki stole the hammer in mythology, anybody could lift Thor's hammer. It was heavy and everything, but not everybody could wield it properly. But Loki stole it, gave it to the giants. Odin was terrified. The giants are going to kill us now. That's our best weapon, kind of thing. It wasn't like I'm going to use a thunderbolt to take him out. Now it's like we got to make deals. So they had to wheel and deal and trick.
No. But there's the one with the ogre where Thor had to dress up like.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They had to wheel a deal. They dressed up Thor like a woman and sent him in there to.
And then once he got his hammer, he wiped everybody out.
Yep.
Well, that's one way to get your hammer.
Yeah, get your hammer back.
In a lot of ways, you could get hammered a couple of different ways there.
Yeah.
Odin. Odin lied. Odin was pretty cruel. In the earlier stories, Odin and Loki were buddies. They were going around tricking people and seducing women and doing horrible things. And then I forget, there was one specific story where where basically they told Loki that you're not one of us. You know, when push comes to shove, you're a frost giant, and not like, okay, you want me to be a frost giant? I'll be a frost giant. It was kind of like
Loki always knew. Everybody always knew that he wasn't an Asgardian. They always knew he was a frost giant. They always knew.
Well, if you had your
Here's
eye
the thing-
poked out
here's
by
the thing with Timmy is
Freya,
Freya, she wasn't an Asgardian either.
she was a Vanir. She was basically an elf.
Yeah. So yeah, she wasn't. So that's what I'm saying. The Asgardian, quote unquote, Asgardian gods or Norse gods, they were Asgardian, elf, frost giant, ogre, whatever you want to call it. They were all in there together. So it's not the same as the Greek, Olympians.
One of the things that always bothered me, this is just super nerdy deluxe, and you could dismiss this, but in all of the stories of like mythologies, the dwarves are always the one that craft all the magic hammers and weapons.
Right.
Yeah, it's always the dwarves.
And then when you play original Dungeons and Dragons, dwarves couldn't be magicians. Dwarves couldn't be wizards. I'm like, I remember even as a 12-year-old, I threw that rule out. You could be a dwarf wizard.
But when you went into the Lord of the Rings, the dwarves were the ones that could actually craft everything. That was
Right.
that was the high stuff. So he took everything from the mythologies to make Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and everything. And D&D. Now let's just phrase it. D&D is a game. They made it based on the stuff they got from Lord of the Rings and some other places.
Right.
And they did what they wanted to. That's why a lot of stuff they've got is not copyrightable or trademark writable, and you can use it as free source.
It also, I think it also, the original box set came out before the Sibylarian was published. So Gygax's defense, he probably didn't know all of the deep lore.
First stuff didn't come out until the 70s.
Right. The first box set was like 74, and I think the Sibylarian came out in 76. I'm probably wrong. I'm sure Logic
I
Finder.
think Similarity came out before, because I remember the first anything that came out with Dungeons and Dragons, you had to cut out of the magazines and put in a binder yourself.
Yeah. The good old days. You had to work a little.
My copy of first edition actually has the stuff of Cthulhu in it, which that's a no-no.
Yeah.
Because they got to pay for that.
Well, so anyway, the gods knew that they were doomed. They knew that they could be killed in a fight, whereas the Greek gods couldn't be killed. Like I said, the only Greek god who died was Hercules, who then ascended into godhood. So,
yeah, Hephaestus was the armory god of the Greek gods. He was a Greek god. He had a clubbed foot, and he was actually married to Aphrodite. And then when he caught Aphrodite and Ares getting together, he actually caught them red-handed and had them in a golden net and traded them out in front of everybody to embarrass them. But yeah, he was the craftier. He was the one. He made all the jewelry for Aphrodite and everything. He really loved her.
yeah. It's funny because that story backfired. Like he
did. Yeah, he thought he was going to. He thought instead
he thought he was going to shame them all, and then Hermes says to Apollo, "Man, I would love to be tied up next to Aphrodite, wouldn't you?" You know.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. It was like they were praising Ares for actually getting Aphrodite, and made Hephaestus
Hephaestus was the son of Hera, and I forget who the father was. But the father wasn't Zeus, and Zeus threw him down Olympus, and that's why he was all mangled and
he had messed up his foot and stuff. So,
and then Hephaestus made it up to him by crafting the thunderbolts of Zeus. The story of Prometheus just exemplifies the cruelty of the gods.
same with the 100-handers. Those guys.
How do you pronounce them?
100-handers.
Yeah, but how do you say the word? The Hecatombs?
The Hecatocrates. Is that right?
How do you say it? Logic. How do you pronounce the
Hecatocrates? Is that the 100-handers?
Yeah, I could never pronounce it. Yeah, but it's funny because in me marrying Lovecraft and Greek mythology and my superhero world, the 100-handed ones are Shoggoths.
Well, see, I don't everybody uses Greek mythology. Everybody loves using Greek mythology. I don't use now. I will say this, there's a little bit of Greek mythology in my horror novel, a little bit, but most of my stuff comes from either Samaria or it comes from Egypt. I don't use anything.
Samaria and Rome, they all had like the prototype vampires like Lamea and they
Yeah,
had
and you know when you get into some, that's where also you get Baal, you get Tiamat, and that's one character I do love using because I can, and D&D can't do nothing about it. Um, Tiamat is a fun character to play with. Tiamat's always female, and in the original of her, she really was a dragon that got wounded, and she curled up into a ball and became the Earth. That's why when you go back and you look at the Persian name for Earth, it's Terra, not Earth. Earth is actually a Saxon name for the planet.
yeah, Earth. It sounds like Earth.
Yeah, exactly. Earth. That's exactly where it came from.
You pronounce it Sydney Sweeney. So you want to put your 100 hands all over her. So anyway, I don't think any big surprise. I does anybody thinks the North gods have a chance against the Greek gods?
I don't think they have a chance.
I don't think either. They're not organized. They're not as powerful, and
they're more like superhumans than gods. Like
yeah, that's what
to me, it's like saying the Justice League versus the
Thunderbolts.
The Greek gods are just like
the Justice League against the Avengers except for Thor.
Yeah,
put Thor in there and see what happens because you got Superman. Superman. Let's face it, Superman is the ultimate Boy Scout. He is the ultimate Boy Scout. He's more Boy Scout than Captain America is.
So
we have to assume that Superman were killed in World War II, although they didn't really show that in the comics.
So the Greek gods, I think it's not even a contest. They would slow it. But to me,
I agree.
I got to make it like meta too. It's kind of fitting because let's face it, the Greek civilization, the Greek culture was more influential than the Norse culture. I mean, we all like our Vikings, but just think of it, the Hellenistic world went.
I never get a chance to rape and pillage in my lifetime yet.
No, it's not fair.
Yeah, I want to go.
No, I was thinking that would be kind of fun.
Yes, have a harem. No, that's okay. The harem actually comes from the Middle East. Yeah. So.
But the Greek culture influenced Rome, and the Roman culture influenced the Western Europe, and then Europe, through America, and it survived. Yes, the Viking culture, the Nordic culture also influenced, and there are parts of it.
Well, the days of the week, a lot of the days of the week.
If you look at
Wednesday, Thursday,
the English language that we use today,
right?
It is heavily Germanic Norse language. That's English because Thursday, all that stuff is in that area that we use today. Even Thursday, Tuesday, Saturday, all that stuff it comes from a Germanic language, and the Germanic language is broken into 3 different languages.
Yep.
That goes in. That's where you get to Norway, Sweden, Denmark, area like that. But English, when you look at it, because it comes from Normans and Saxons mixing with Celt, that's where it's mostly pronounced through the It's mainly a Germanic language.
So I don't see we got over 50 people watching, and nobody's shouting and yelling that I'm wrong, but I think the Greek gods take it. Is there any other pantheon of gods that you think that would challenge the Greek gods? Are they the most powerful?
No, I think the ones from Samaria, that group could really mess up the Greek gods.
See,
those guys,
what were their fates?
Those guys could really. That's we're talking about Baal, Tiamat. We're talking about Nimrod. All those guys. Those guys could really go in and just mop the floor with the Greek gods. But they were the first. They were the original ones. They were the ones that. Oh my God, these guys are just. The power sets and stuff they have are just incredible. And even today, the Christian god El comes from that pantheon. The Christian god El, which is what it was really called, El Shahim, El Shaddai, comes from that pantheon, that has Baal. It also, that's where Allah comes from. Also, they're two separate deities. They're not the same deity, and that's why when you look at the Ten Commandments, it says, "Thou shalt not have any other gods before me."
Right.
Allah is making His presence known, and He's the one making the rules. So that's what I'm saying. You have those kind of powerful deities there. They'd be way overpowered compared to the Greeks. The Greeks wouldn't stand a chance.
All right, so we pretty much come to the same conclusion. I didn't think this was going to be too concontroversial, but I just any chance to talk.
This was a fun one.
I always learn something when you guys
so
talk.
Marcus, you've been quiet for a while. How about do you want to tell us differences in the comics between the Greeks and the Norse?
The comics are all superheroed up. I mean,
right.
They made Thor a nice blonde, a Norse person, nice blonde person, and they want to have the colors of Superman, so that the color blue and red, which Stan and Jack both believed in for heroic colors, and he was kind of more like Superman at the beginning of his career.
Right. They literally were trying to make a Superman ripoff.
Well, I don't know if they would.
Homage ripoff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But then
they wanted a guy who could
put in some Ymir and in the Tales of Asgard, but it was all filtered through his costuming and his naming. Like Odin, and they streamlined it so it's not as complicated. When they say, "Well, the Marvel stuff is really different," of course it's different because they streamlined it because it's so complicated.
That's the whole
because
thing.
They used the Norse people first, and Thor had his own comic. Hercules and Zeus were just side characters. They were guest stars. Oh, we all like Hercules and the Marvel. Who, with his way he partied on the earth and all that, was kind of like the original Hercules.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Marvel took the Norse gods that they wanted to, and did design them based on what they wanted.
Yeah, like Sif,
which is fine because that's what we all do.
They did use the names, though, for the most part. They didn't make up too many, like Balder and Sif.
It always bothered me that Sif never had the blonde hair. Loki cut off.
They had Sif having dark hair. I wonder why that was.
Because they didn't give Thor red hair.
I think they could have given Thor red hair.
Thor should have always had red hair and a red beard. He should have had a red hair and red beard.
Kirby used the red beard and red hair in other versions of Thor before Marvel Thor.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. The Egyptian gods were more powerful than the Greek gods as well. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
And they definitely combined the idea of Zeus or a Titan to make Odin the super powerful All-Father.
The way I look at
Norse
Odin was they used Odin
Marcus talk.
I felt like they kind of combined the idea of Zeus or a Greek Titan to make the Odin the All-Father. He clearly wasn't the All-Father. I mean, he wasn't really the All-Father, all-powerful like he is in Marvel Comics, that he is in Norse mythology. And they really, they made Loki the brother, so because Stan wanted to have that brother, rivalry, and he was a powerful god. He wasn't just a trickster. He didn't turn into a woman like now they have the guy turn into a woman. They love that. They love that LGBT.
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't bring that down.
They didn't do any of that stuff. What they really did wasn't ruin it. They just did it to streamline it, to sell it. They have Thor be a rough looking, streamlined superhero costume instead of the rough looking bearded redhead. When Walt Simons gave Thor the beard later, it looked a little more like the real Thor. And he's doing Thor again now without a chin.
Also at the time period, in the early '60s, beards were like what commies had.
That's true. Nobody had beards. When growing up, my father had a mustache and a beard, and when he had a beard and gray like yours, John, but not smaller, but it was a full beard. It was a unique look. It was a unique look having a beard. He was noted to have that. Not everybody had. Not that many people. Commies and hippies had beards.
Right. I remember in Planet of the Apes when Charlton Heston shaved, and they said, "Oh, you look less intelligent," and they were goofing. And he said, "Only kids have beards."
Now you can't. Nobody. Even I have a beard. I didn't have a beard for a long time.
Beards were out of fashion, so they weren't going to make.
Exactly. Beards. And then, but if you had the long white beard like Odin did, then he was smarter than
Yeah,
everybody.
you know, if you wanted to grow a beard in the 50s and 60s, you had to leave until you had a long white beard, and just you couldn't have a preliminary Marcus
Yeah,
beard.
you had to have that long that was age and wisdom, mean age and wisdom. Yeah, no, that's true.
That's why
So,
Gandalf
and they made him be
and
able to kind of fly. I don't think he ever flew. I don't think they wanted to draw, ugly looking goats pulling him around. So they kind of merged all those powers he got from those other, like instead of a belt of strength, he had strength. He
Right.
didn't need a belt. And gloves, they just merged it all into one superhero character instead. But it was all there if you think about it.
Well, he wasn't. He was just a superhero at first.
At first, yeah, he was just a superhero.
Larry Lieber made him just a guy who got the power of Thor. And they left it. And then Jack Kirby introduced all the mythology. And I say mythology like this because it's not exact. It's
Kirby mythology, but exact mythology, I don't think would have sold the comic. I think you could do it today, but I don't think.
Yeah. Now, both you guys, obviously, you're both into comics and everything. I always bring up that trial of Reed Richards when they bring up Odin as a character witness, and Empress Leandra is like, oh, like they play up Odin as this like grand galactic wise man.
That's my point, right? That's my point, right?
Okay, so on that, remember in Greek mythology, he gave up his eye for the world knowledge.
That's one of my favorite stories.
Oh, yeah. After he gave up his eye, he was that smart. He was that brilliant because he had gotten the knowledge of the world. But it cost him.
He had his eye then during the trial of Reed Richards. I think he had his eye, but I think they. But that's my thing when Kirby created Odin, they weren't thinking of him as just the god, like the superhero / god who could die with a fight with the frost giants. They really did build them up in Marvel Comics to be like one of the elders of the universe, just about.
Yeah.
Who's sitting there next to passing around the gemstones.
For Odin is one of my favorite mythological characters, and James just brought up the he gave up his eye for wisdom. I love that story. That's such a great myth. I really find, and me personally, all biases aside, I do think that Odin is smarter, more crafty, more intelligent than Zeus, but Zeus just has the raw power that he doesn't need to come up with schemes and mechanizations and plans. And I think that's part of the Greek culture, is that the Greeks, the rocky Greek landscape was a rough place to live. Like if you look at in history, all the places that had good living conditions, like, I know people are going to get mad at me for being politically incorrect, but the American plains were a relatively good place to live. They were flat, abundant. I'm talking compared to Scandinavia. You know what I mean? So, like, the American Indians, they didn't have a written language. They didn't have domesticated animals. They didn't have the wheel. They didn't need it because life really wasn't that bad. And because of that, they didn't really advance. The Greeks, they lived in a rocky terrain. They had to plant olive gardens and wait 40 years to get a benefit. Like they had to fish in seas that were stormy and ships sank. They had to struggle, and because of that, they created it's art through adversary. You know what I mean? Like
right.
Look at every great king, like Marcus Aurelius, something like that. Their sons were pieces of shit because they grew up in wealth. Look at all these famous people who struggled to become great actors or inventors or whatever, and then their kids are waste because they didn't.
Right.
That's the way. Struggling. My father would say, "A little beating never hurt anybody." That's what the Greeks.
Yeah.
The Greeks,
that's the movie I'm talking about. Gods of Egypt. That's the movie I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Logic's finest. Thor does not have a big beard, belly, and a facial scar, and a big beard anymore. He's Marvel Comics character now. That's how people know him.
Right.
That's how it is. There's nothing you could do about it. That's the old mythology that not many people read.
If you think about it,
they can't sell that on the cover of a comic book in 1963.
A lot of the mythology where you're learning from is from the comic books. Even when we all learned opera from watching Bugs Bunny.
No, I know. I had a friend. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And
that's absolutely right. What opera doc? There was a we didn't even know it was opera until at the end of the cartoon. They're talking about it. It was just really cool music that fit with the cartoon. You know what I'm saying?
I got to get. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry, but somebody just bought my comic. I just got a notification. I really got to get like a button to push where confetti goes across the screen or something like that. You know what I mean? Make it like a celebration in my live stream. But thank you.
I don't mean to actually put Logic's Finest down. He's absolutely correct.
Oh, Logic Finest.
However,
I love his comments.
That's just how it is. You can't sell that. The hero is a beer-bellied hero. You may be able to do it now, but you couldn't do it back in 1964.
Now, in 1964, if you did make a redheaded, bearded, scarred, fat-bellied Thor, do you think he would be a staple character, or do you think he would have been a flash in the pan?
Flash may be a side character. They bring him back because they bring back every character, but he just.
I think he would have been looked at as a biker, because the bike gangs are starting to come up, and they could have done him that way. To make him relevant.
James is right, though. You read the Thor comics, like you're a kid and you're reading about Thor. You got Thor, he's in the Avengers, he goes to Asgard, and then suddenly you go to the library at school and you're like, oh, there's all these real, and then you read about the myths. That's how they bring them. That's how they're staying alive, actually.
And it's like D&D. How many people know who Tiamat is?
Right, absolutely.
But they don't know the story of the real version. The mythological version. They know about her. They know about the six-headed dragon. Everybody knows about her.
The D&D Deities and Demigods second edition with the gods of Melnibone, or however you pronounce it, Melnibone, and Cthulhu and Nuha. That book was such a. That was like the big, ground zero for me going out and learning about all these mythologies.
Oh, yeah, I mean that book came out, and I still got my copy. And
yeah, I'll never give that up.
I was like, oh yeah, I got to go find out what about this stuff.
I'm eating a burrito from Qdoba, chicken burrito from Qdoba. I just couldn't put it off anymore. I'm so freaking hungry.
It's just all that stuff. You have
marketing 101. Yeah. A redheaded fat guy with a beard and facial scar versus Chris.
Here's the irony: they ended up making Chris Hemsworth a fat guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Which people were mad at, but it's a movie. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. And then they decided that a traitorous, cowardly, drunken lesbian was a better king than Odin, than Thor.
Oh, I know. You see all the beginnings of everything a lot. I mean, you see it in other movies too. But that whole Valkyrie character is a disaster. I mean,
the worst part is that woman is just so unlikable.
Well, she's unlikable. The character's unlikable. She's unlikable. There's no Norse that would like that color. It's like what's his face too?
She would have been a Valkyrie.
He can't be a black guy. I'm sorry. I love that actor. Everybody loves Idris Elba, and so, but
especially since he's considered Heimdall, the shining Heimdall, the whitest of the gods, is how he's described.
You just can't. They didn't even look that far to find out he's the whitest of the gods. Let's leave that out. But still, Norse people don't look like that. They just don't. I know they have to stick somebody in.
Guys, I just had a brilliant casting choice. Sydney Sweeney as Valkyrie.
Well, that's perfect.
Oh my God, James, use your influence. You got influence with everybody. I want it done. Next time you're on Clobbering Time, I want Sweeney in booby armor.
The thing with Sydney Sweeney is real simple. It's the production cost of what's going on, and her salary that she's going to request. If they don't match up, there's no way it's going to happen.
She's one of the few people left in Hollywood that has a chest, for God's sakes. Before it was that woman, Haley Atwell. Oh,
if I have Sydney Sweeney in front of me,
my wife's not here. I can speak the name Haley Atwell.
Anything I wanted in Warner Brothers control, Power Girl.
Haley Atwell.
For DC, she should be Power Girl. Yes,
she should be Power Girl. I don't care. She should be Power Girl. Put her in that white costume. And let her go to town.
Agent Carter. I want Agent Carter to come back.
Odin looks like Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor versus Anthony Hopkins. I gotta say, I loved seeing Anthony Hopkins as Jack Kirby.
Anthony Hopkins was.
He was the he was phenomenal as
I
the.
like the Thor movies. They
the
get
Jack
bad reviews.
Kirby
Not the
one.
last one. I didn't see God and Thunder. Thor, God and Thunder. I guess I'll see it sometime.
But the mythological Odin was described as tall, thin. Basically, he looked like almost like Saruman. Christopher.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what. Yeah.
Christopher.
You're good.
And that's also Gandalf the Grey was modeled off
Yeah.
of Odin.
Gandalf 100% Odin. 100%. The way he acts, the way he talks, and everything. That's 100% Odin.
Hollywood is a different beast than the comics. Yeah, I would, now that, I mean, is superhero fatigue a thing? I don't think superhero fatigue is a thing. I think bad movie fatigue is a thing. I think if they, and did you hear? I'm getting excited because my caffeine is kicking in, guys. I apologize. Okay. But I just read today that they're still doing reshoots for the Fantastic Four movie.
They always do reshoots, though.
But here's the thing, that this is my viewpoint on the superhero movies. Number one, pick characters people want to see. Thunderbolts, nobody gave a shit about them.
Yeah, but they're always trying to recreate the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hold on, I'm talking about if you're going to do a movie and you're going to spend $150 million on the movie, pick characters that people want to actually see, aka X-Men, aka whatever. Yes,
I don't care if I ever see an X-Men movie. I hope they can throw all those characters.
I got to say that I disagree with you because nobody wanted to see the Guardians of the Galaxy.
I agree. And almost all three of those movies are
nobody wanted to see nobody wanted to see John Wick until they made a good movie. Make a good movie.
Go back. You want to see a good movie? Go back, and I've done this, and rewatch 2008's Iron Man. That's a good movie.
Right. Yes. Yes, it is.
They played a little bit with the Tony Stark character.
People said that Iron Man was a lesser Marvel character until that movie came out. I disagree. I always thought Iron Man was one of the major Marvel characters.
I never thought
the three big characters are Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man. Unfortunately, they never had the sales. Simonson, Thor, Captain America, Zek, and Byrne, but like Captain America, a lot of, and like Iron Man kind of plot, especially in the 70s before Bob Layton, Iron Man. He really plotted along. But I wouldn't think he's not a C-list character.
You have characters that you should be making good movies with. Okay? Not the Thunderbolts. The Thunderbolt movie was made just like the.
But is it really? I heard it wasn't a bad movie.
It's not a bad movie, but it's like when I'm sitting there going, like, I really don't care about these characters.
Well, people like Winter Soldier.
Okay, Winter Soldier, yes.
I think I go with Logic's finest though. Like they don't have any hot women. They were on GMA and they were talking Thunderbolts. That's a Disney thing. Good Morning America. And I said they had all the actresses lined up, and they go, not one of them were that great looking. I told my wife over, these are the women that are in the Thunderbolts. You think they're really that great looking? She's like, nah, they just look regular. This is why Sydney Sweeney's so popular. There is nobody that has any Hollywood glamour left to go see.
I will say that
we don't have masculine heroes and have masculine men. We don't have good-looking women as actors. It's all, as the kids say, mid and lesser people.
But I think,
and the men, if they're handsome, they look like wimps. Like the current Superman, he's a nice, handsome guy. He's not Henry Cavill.
No,
I agree.
But the problem with Henry Cavill is, and this is something people need to understand, he's not young anymore. He's in his mid to late 40s now. That was an issue.
You know what? They could have played. He could have played Superman. They don't have, as Stippling Vaughn calls it, they don't have to make Superboy and make a younger Superboy that's dragged around by a dog. Well, they could have made Superman. They had Superman, and they kicked him to the curb.
Okay. So,
period.
So here's the thing that I've been seeing. Okay. First off,
don't redo it. Just keep making.
I'm gonna have to see. I'm gonna have to see the movie to find out. I'm not real sold on the guy as Superman.
Well, he's wall-eyed. That'd be wonderful.
Well, hold on. But when they showed the pictures of Lobo and they showed the pictures of Supergirl, they looked right. They actually got the girl from House of the Dragon, the young blonde girl from House of the Dragon. She's playing Supergirl. She looked right. She really did. She didn't look. She looked really cute. She looked beautiful. So I think they'll be able to work with her as Supergirl.
Omnipro says it right. Since the general public doesn't know these characters, they get opportunity to write. They could. I say I'm wrong. I will disagree with you, but I like Marvel could make a great movie about Son of Satan, Damien Hellstrom. You know what I mean? They could. The character's not the best character in the world, but if they come up with look at Blade. Nobody cared about Blade. Blade is a D-list character, but they made an awesome first
Right.
movie.
Right.
And everybody in the world loves Blade now, you know, to the point they don't want anybody else but Wesley Snipes playing him. And, you know, but that was a character that came out of left field. They made it.
But when Blade came out, nobody knew he was a comic book character.
Right. It's funny because when I told people
I'm not a great Snyder fan, but why throw away all those movies? Just make a lighter movie with the current guy in it. Why bother redoing it?
I think people are tired of
there was no reason for him. He wasn't showing his age enough. You know what I'm saying? Hey, his uniform was right. The color was dark. They made really dark and depressing superhero movies. Some people love them, but they could use the same guys and make lighter and
well, they kind of screwed the Fantastic Four movie over with the end of Thunderbolts.
Well, I didn't see the end of Thunderbolts, so
I don't know who. Does anybody know who's playing Galactus? Because I want it to be Christopher Walken.
Well, I don't.
No,
I gotta eat this planet.
No.
I want a planet to eat. Yeah.
No.
Oh well, the issue is you could swallow Sue. She's not the perfect Sue. Again, there's no pretty women in Hollywood, so she's the best of a bad lot. And then
no, the girl who played Lagartha.
There's no actresses who could play Sue anymore. They don't know.
The girl from Vikings, Lagartha, the blonde.
They don't want her. They want. I know what you mean.
Actually,
so we can accept Sue, we can accept Johnny, and we can accept the Thing, but nobody can accept Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards.
I don't like any of the four.
Do you want to know why Pedro Pascal?
I know, but he's the worst one.
No, but
he's
you know
by far the worst one. I'm saying you could say, well, she's blonde, and that Johnny's a little wimpy. Like,
you know why he is
agreeing with you at all. But I'm saying he's so bad that you can't accept Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards.
You know why he's playing the role? Because the other 7 actors they asked to play him said no.
That's their problem. They still can
find so they ended up with him. That's all they got. So yeah.
They should CGI the professor from Gilligan's Island.
Oh, he would have made a great Reed Richards.
That's Alan Ross. Alex Ross always used that as the model.
Yeah,
John Byrne used to talk about him.
Yeah,
but hopefully he acts. It doesn't look like he's going to act like Reed Richards. It sounds like
he's going to be
the Reed Richards of Mark Waid. Oh, I don't know what to do. Oh, he's taking away my intelligence.
Yeah.
When they dumbed down Reed Richards at first, before all this folks, when Waid was doing, they dumbed down Reed Richards because Wade's an asshole.
China is asshole.
Yeah, see, that's the whole thing. Is we're sitting here going, Marvel could write this great. No, Marvel can't write anything worth a damn right now because the writers are garbage.
Not only that, the Fantastic Four has been around like 60 years. What more can you do with them?
Well, you could find a what if story where the Silver Surfer is a woman and put her in the movie, and then all the fans would be like, "It's in the comics. It's in the comics."
Well, if they made Sydney Sweeney the Silver Surfer, nobody would be complaining, would they? Except I'll defend that actress. She's a pretty good actress.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with like the guy who's playing Snape in the TV show, the black guy. I don't blame him.
No,
it's either that or go back to waiting tables. You know what I mean?
I've seen her. She's a good actress. She's from the Bronx.
But Logic's finest. I agree with you. They chose Pedro Pascal as an attacker.
They couldn't get anybody else. That was.
I don't disagree. Yeah, no.
They couldn't get everybody else turned it down.
And he's a big wimp in real life. He's terrible.
I would be surprised if we found out that they didn't cast anybody, that he was their number one choice from the beginning. Like who are these people that turned it down?
I know. So the guy that was in the last Doctor Strange movie,
John Krasinski,
he turned it down.
Yeah, he turned it down.
There was 5 other guys that turned it down. I mean, they went through a bunch of guys, and they were like, nope, because they were reading the script, And they said, nope, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do it. Nope. And Pedro Pascal was their last choice. I mean, they went through so many guys because supposedly they got a whole bunch of. It's more of Sue Richards and thing and stuff like that. So
I find him to be creepy. Those pictures of him needing to hold on to what's in it, Vanessa Kirby.
He's creepy. He's creepy.
That is.
And how does an actor be that nervous?
He doesn't need. He's got anxiety, but he doesn't need to hold on to the guy who plays the Thing's hand. He doesn't need to hold on to the guy who plays the Human Torches, and he's got to hold on to the. That is so creepy, ladies. That is
okay,
like.
I want to see a Youngblood trailer and make Youngblood.
What's that?
Okay, so a bunch of guys went out and made a trailer for Youngblood.
Well, I think that Pedro Pascal is going to play Shaft,
and I would love to see them actually do that movie based on that trailer. I mean, it's a fan thing, but it is.
I wouldn't mind a movie of Youngblood, but as Rob Liefeld gets more and more annoying to me, just like his arrogance. Oh, there's a big interview with him. Okay, Rob. Like I said, everybody tells me, you like to learn about comics. You should listen to Rob's observations. I've listened to a few of them. I can't get through them. He doesn't get to the point. He just talks. He doesn't get to the point of the thing for 45 minutes. And then he talks about himself for another 45 minutes, and then it's 2 hours. I don't know how much more can I.
He shows pictures of his son flexing, and I don't want to see that.
No, I don't want to see that either. I remember poor Jimmy Reyes criticized him for not getting to the point, and he just can't take any criticism. He just eviscerated Jimmy.
I have a theory. I base it on absolutely nothing, so therefore I'm unassailable. That they're doing reshoots right now to get rid of some woke elements in the Fantastic Four movie because they
I think you might be right.
I think you're 100% right.
Because a lot of it's going downhill. You can see what's happening.
No, because I'll tell you why. Every movie Disney's put out right now has failed to make profit. And they cannot go a whole year like they did last year. They can't go a whole year with everything failing. The only thing they have a bright future with right now is Lilo and Stitch. That's it. If what I'm hearing about Fantastic Four, because I heard they've had problems since they started shooting it. If it fails, they're in deep trouble.
So Logic Finest says that Feige wanted Kransky. So Logic Finest, I don't follow any of this nonsense. But do you think that he would have played Reed Richards, but nobody wanted him? And if I don't know, I just think
he didn't want
him in that movie. But speaking of awesome legends, we got the telepathic bunny showing up. He's going to bail us out of this nonsense. What do you think? What do you think, T-Bunny? But before you say anything, you must turn on your microphone. Or do I have your microphone off?
No, he has it off.
Oh.
There you go. Now you can talk.
I got it.
There you go. I turned your mic off. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Well, I tend to go with the Greek pantheon myself, just because it has. I mean, the Asgardians have more warriors, but they don't have the power levels that the Greeks tend to have. And I mean, the Greeks are they're over certain things. They're over vast swaths. I mean, the brothers, Zeus is the sky, the Poseidon is the land, and then, Hades is the underworld. And so, I mean, that's those three right there. You got Odin. Odin's like the All-Father. So you got one guy over everything, and then everybody else is squabbling for the rest of it, seems like.
Yeah, but you forget Odin had two brothers, V and Vidar, and all three of them created the earth, the universe, the oceans, and everything like that, too. So Odin no wimp either. But then all of a sudden, the story's kind of descaled him or whatever once he created everything.
Well, it's hard to determine where they seem to be super powered beings, but they don't seem to have Balawax, and so it's a little harder to determine with the Asgardians.
Yeah, we all agreed the Greek gods. I think Tim Olsen with the Nordic last name of Olsen is the only one who disagrees that the Asgardians all the way.
Right. Well, Asgardians do have more warriors. I mean,
Right.
they do have more warriors, so.
But we
Doing that.
yeah, so we kind of all agree the Greeks would win. Oh, I was going to bring up this theory, and then we got sidetracked about everything else. So thanks, T Bunny, for bringing me back. My theory is the older the pantheon, the more powerful the gods. The more we get to recent times, the less powerful the gods. What do you guys think of that?
Absolutely correct.
Oh, all right. I thought you were going to be the one to disagree with me. Okay, cool.
No, because I've always said that the Sumerian gods, the one Tiamat and like that, even today we still worship as Christians El from that pantheon.
Now, I forgive me.
I don't know about that.
Yes,
I'm
he
gonna
is.
agree with you there.
Yes, because Abram was worshiping Baal, El appeared to him. It is El appeared to him and told him to move and leave. Everything that was done in front of Abram was done by El, and El is listed in the pantheon of those.
You're talking about El Yon. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
He's in Baal.
No,
The Egyptian
Baal
gods.
is Mesopotamian, and no, he's you're mixing up your pantheons there, dude.
No, I know my pantheons very well.
Well, you don't know Christianity very well. I'll just say
Oh,
that.
believe me, I know it. Believe me, I know it very well too.
Okay,
man.
right.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Shots for next week. It's T Bunny versus James Lee.
The top rope.
Next weekend it's clobbering time. It's T Bunny versus James Lee. Everybody, so
That's it. I'm just watching. I'm not saying a
I'm
word.
just watching. Who?
Well, he just called us a bunch of pagans, so you have to forgive me for being a little jumpy there. But
any opinions on the new pope?
I don't really have one.
What is an older religion, or older mythology, the Sumerian or the Egyptians? I might be. The Sumerian predates the Egyptian.
Sumerians first.
Yeah, Sumerians probably older than the Egyptians, but
depends. So would you agree the Sumerians are more powerful than the Egyptian gods? I don't know as much. We need Bancroft over here. He's the Sumerian guy. I'm not going to see this film or any of them. I walked away from the MCU. I don't hate watching.
I just don't watch them. I think that I would see a couple of them, but I haven't watched anything since Endgame.
I don't hate watch anything, and lately I don't watch a lot of TV.
Yeah, I don't find myself watching a lot of them.
I also don't want to talk about things that I don't like. Like earlier,
I'll probably go see Thunderbolts.
I'll see it when it comes on TV, and I can sit here in my chair.
I have a good friend of mine, and he has nothing. He doesn't know anything about. Maybe he had a Spawn comic back in the day. He really knows nothing about comics, and he doesn't. He just watches them. He loves almost all the movies. I don't think he liked God and Thunder very much, but if it's a spectacular superhero movie, he just like a normie. I don't like to use the word normie. He loves it, and so we're looking at it like because we love the character.
Marcus, you're 100% right. Like again, I
want to say that sometimes.
I work with normie guys. They like all the superhero movies. They're amazed that I don't watch them all because. I guess I'm too close to home.
I like them. I love watching them.
They watch them all, and they'll admit, "Oh, this was bad, but I loved it." You know what I mean?
I never we all go through Captain Marvel. The Captain Marvel movie is a perfect example. That's a piece of trash. She's no good. Blah blah blah. All the stuff. It's a girl boss. They don't see the girl boss stuff as much as we do either. And no, I love Captain Marvel. She's so hot. And she was mean to that guy, and we're picking it apart. And I'm not saying we're wrong for picking it, we're right for doing it. But they don't see it as much. It's like you watch NCIS for everybody, and there's a girl boss movie, and they're all well-drawn characters that are on every – but there's always a 135-pound girl beating up a 200-pound guy in every episode. Yeah. And you're like – and the only time I say, oh, she picked up a pipe. Good. That was the right thing to do. Now she won because she hit him over the head with a pipe. But that, right?
If you trace the etymology of the girl boss – if you trace the etymology of the girl boss, it always goes back to 1973 Battle of the Sexes, where Billie Jean King beat straight sets a tennis hustler who whooped the number one in the world just months earlier and suddenly completely lost his game.
Yeah, and said he had a hurt shoulder.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I watched that. I'm old enough to remember that. And it was such a big deal. And it's been happening.
They've been pushing this narrative. That's the reason why you got hairy men in gymnasium locker rooms right now. It's because of that one.
Because Dionysus
match.
is waking up. I explained.
Dionysus, we talked that before. It's the end of
Dionysus is waking
society. Whenever
Yeah.
transgender comes in, T-Bunny, it's the end of society.
Well, I'd say, yeah.
I want to tell.
You can't protect your women. Once you can't protect your women, you're a fallen society.
I want to tell a little anecdote from work today that it's kind of tied into this, but not. So we had every Friday we have a safety meeting, and then every 6 months we have like a super safety meeting that's like sponsored by all the trades have to go. So we cleared out a floor, and there was like 200, 300 guys, listening to a boring lecture about safety, but they have to do it. So they were smart. They talked for 10 minutes and they gave us 40 minutes to have coffee and donuts and bagels. So we were all there, whatever. But it got to be, you're the comic book guy. You're the comic book. So I was giving out my card and everything, talking about comics.
Yeah.
So I was just asking him about comics. What's your favorite comic? And one of the guys was just like, you know what I really, so I was like, are you a comic book guy? He goes, not really, but I just got into this comic. Have you heard about it? It's called ISOM. And I'm like, so here is a normie.
Uh-huh.
He goes, I just caught about online, and I was like, well, that's kind of what I'm doing. You go online and buy my comic, So out of curiosity, I was like, are you into Comicsgate? He goes, what's that? No idea. I said, what about Cyberfog? He goes, no. So I would just like to say, like, it's clobbering. It's like the normies, whatever you want to say, and I'm not endorsing, I'm just repeating an anecdote of evidence that I've seen today, that the average normie is starting to know crowdfunding, Ripper stuff, So I asked, a couple of people knew who ISOM was, and one of them, it's funny because I started laughing. He asked me, what does the name mean? And I had to talk about how I have a problem.
That's also because of his reach, because of his on the right. It's unfortunate he doesn't make better comics, and it's unfortunate.
I'm not saying that.
Help everybody sell their other comics. I got a buddy named T-Bunny, and he's got this great character. If you like Captain America,
and nobody's saying that either.
He refuses to do that, which started the whole problem. Now, is it too big than it is, and too much? Yes.
The way I put it is, okay, he's got reach. It's his company. It's his books. He can do what he wants. And if he makes money, more power to him.
I don't know. Indie comic space, you have to help each other.
No.
We can't not help each other. You can't just say, I'm going after Marvel, DC, F John Longbox, F James Lee of All Crowdfunded Comics. Although, I don't know. When he shouts them out, they don't get more popular anyway. So what am I to know? But so what am I to know? He's on, he's on the Blaze a couple of times a week and stuff like that. And he's got the big YouTube, if he does a lot of politics stuff. So, well, I mean, of course, but it's good. I guess it's good, but it doesn't seem to, it's not crossing over to be good for everybody. That's all. I mean, and don't forget the big guys. Oh, it's always these 3-4 guys. I meant just the regular guys. Like there's 3 levels of crowdfunders. At the top level, and there's the medium level, and we don't know who they are. And then there's rest of us.
I call them the Fund My Comic guys.
And the rest of us sometimes,
But
I'm just
I will say this, that people in the level roughly parallel with me have the best stuff of all of them. I mean, like Heroic Tales is
I think it has the most heart.
And you got I mean, I can go on all day about the people. Yeah, they have heart. It's because they don't think that. I mean, it's because of that. They're basically doing it for the love of it, because they're not making these numbers.
Because I not to cry or anything like that. My comic has costed me money. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it.
I worry about that. I worry about you, John.
I don't even want to look at the money.
I'll be honest with you. My book, I'm breaking even. That's it.
Yeah.
This isn't a big enough seller
not to defend the people who have to make a living at it, like Graham or Andy or Aaron, who make excellent comic books.
Yeah, but they're doing the right thing.
For big guys,
they're keeping their mouth shut, and they're making good comics.
They are making good comics. The rest, but they're also not YouTubers. They have nice YouTube shows, but I would not call them YouTubers, right?
Well, I mean, I back like Aaron Lopresti and some of Andy Smith stuff, but but the fact that they don't go on FMC, I have to say is a big bother to me, because FMC is what they kept saying that we need, FMC was what they're like. I wish somebody would make this.
Well, let me put it this
And now
way.
that it's
Goes on
here,
FNC.
you know,
Hey, Bunny. Let me put it this way. You open up a store and you're doing good at that location. Why would you change locations? In their defense,
because you can get a better deal and you can raise the community at this other location. And you've always talked about how the community is important to you. And in this situation,
that also
goes on FNC. He does well, but he doesn't. He does well, and he's consistent.
well,
But
we
he's
got
the one
a
who's
over
getting
$80,000 book on FMC right now. So I mean,
if we're being
that's about what he made over at Indiegogo, except he's getting a bigger percentage of it now.
Who's that?
I agree with Logic Finest. Nobody is required to help anybody else.
Who's over it?
No, I don't. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't disagree.
It's nobody's job to promote Heroic Tales but me. I could see Renzo has an interest in promoting it because I could hire him some more. You know what I mean? Things like that. That's totally normal. But it's not. Well, Luke Stone because I'm on Fund My Comic. You know what I mean? So he has a financial. But it's not James Lee's responsibility to promote me.
I don't know. I like that. I mean, I retweet a lot of stuff, and
but that's nice. It is nice. Like I gotta say, I got a little annoyed with Ripa saying, "Oh, we got to promote everybody." He was on my channel when he wanted to promote, but then doesn't have me on his channel when I want to promote.
He doesn't have a promoted show though, but
so I gotta say, but he doesn't have to. I mean, him coming on my channel helped promote my channel. That's still one of my two biggest views.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
well, I would say this
question. Both sides are not wrong. I mean, I don't disagree with Logic's finest either.
So I got to say, it was a flaw in me of getting mad. That's the point that I was trying to make. Like,
right. But they get Renzik.
Well, I would say this.
America. Well, that's true.
So I agree with Logic Finest. It's nice,
Yeah.
and that's why. And that's. I'm sorry, Cooper. You'll speak next. I'm sorry. That's why I always shout out guys like Brian Bauer with Wolf and Bat and Genuine Comics, because I love those comics, and it's kind of selfish. I want more of those comics, so I'm doing the best. Like Brian's gonna launch another thing. I'm like, I'll help promote you and stuff. So good, Coop. I'm sorry, everybody kept interrupting.
Oh no problem. Well, there's one thing that's happening tonight, and it should be going live. That's already live. Live 5 minutes ago, and that is Pete Smitty as hold on, my internet just burped.
Pete
Smitty is going live with a campaign that is going to be a game changer for people like us, and that is he's opening up his own printing house, and it's going to print on newsprint, and it's going to print, but his covers are going to be premium covers, and he's got a local printer for that. And right now, the campaign is essentially to buy him a printer for $15,000 that's going to be able to handle. And he's going to be able to handle books up to 200 pages, and they're going to be digest size, up down to floppy size, and it's a really good deal for small.
Yeah, I'm real curious to see. I'm real curious to see how this works out. I'm always rooting for the small guy too. So let's check out. Yeah, go to Follow My Comic. Check out Pizza Medi. See if it's for you. Can't stay but Olympus. Oh, we got the
RJ.
We got RJ from the Fourth Age.
He's like our own Olympian god.
He's the Olympian god here. He comes
from the from Mount Olympus in the backwoods of Canada.
Right, and like Zeus, he just came. Now we're all pregnant, and he left. It's that's
the hour of gold. I feel violated.
Yeah, we're all gonna give birth to serpent monsters and Cerberuses and stuff. Well, RJ, in case you're wondering, we all agreed early that the Greek gods were just. I think the Norse gods are cooler. Odin's my favorite. Odin's craftier, trickier because he's not as powerful as
Zeus. Are cool.
Zeus doesn't. Cool. A tiger doesn't need to be smart, but the monkey does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I made James cry. I'm sorry, James.
No, my allergies.
I know. I'm teasing. I'm teasing you. So I'm going to be on with Yellow Flash at 9:30. So I'm going to stop at 8 minutes. So at this point, what do you think we should do for next week for It's Clobbering Time? Yeah, people were throwing out good ones, but then I forget who it was. Just said Olympus versus Asgard. I was like, that's it. You know.
Yeah, I remember that last week. Yeah.
And
that,
that-
that was a good one last week.
Yeah.
You know,
Anybody have anybody? You know. Bueller.
I'm trying to think of something.
Anybody? We got a bunch of people watching. Anybody throw some? Oscar usually has good ones. Is Oscar watching?
The Thunderbolts versus the Avengers, since that's hot, right?
okay, how about this one? How about Thanos versus Darkseid?
I think
I was saving that one for a week that we were stumped, and it sounds like that might be it. That Thanos versus Darkseid, Mobius versus John Byrne. It's funny. My brain went to the Mobius chair, and then I thought of Metron. You know.
Well, of course, after Ragnarok, there is the new gods.
Right. That's what the new gods are. The gods after Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Marvel International Heroes versus DC International Heroes. That's a good one.
I don't even know who those are.
That's a good one.
Yeah, we can look that one up.
Yeah, I'm not too. But no, I think Darkseid versus Thanos would be really good because the history of those two characters.
We may have to throw in Mongol.
No, you wouldn't have to throw Mongol in there.
Because Mongol was Starlin created Mongol so that DC would have a Thanos.
Well, see, Thanos is taken off by Darkseid.
Well, yeah, but he still created Mongol anyway. When he did it, he made more money from Mongol than Thanos until he sued Marvel, and then he made a good deal with him.
I keep thinking of like biblical characters like Samson versus Gilgamesh.
I like that Samson versus Gilgamesh. As a matter of fact, Gilgamesh has been in the comics, and so Samson's had several comics.
Yeah, but the story of Gilgamesh is more of Noah than it is Samson.
But Gilgamesh, wasn't he? Didn't he do some Hercules 12 labors?
No, he's the one
that was in Marvel.
Yeah, something similar. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay. No.
No.
Well,
I also want to do the Marvel Olympians versus the Eternals at one point.
Oh, I'm gonna have to be out of that one because I don't know much about the Eternals.
I could do the Eternals.
I've got the book, but I just
Yeah, Cersei, Zuros. Yeah, I could do the Eternals.
Yeah, but I'm leaning towards Thanos and Darkseid. I've been holding that one in my back pocket for a while.
It's the same.
Cats versus dogs.
Thanos versus Darkseid.
It'll be the lady episode. Girls
come back to the DC versus Marvel problem, but other than that, they're pretty good, pretty equal, I think.
Yeah.
We could do the question versus the public eye. So I have my.
What are my rules? It has to be published. It's the public eye's not published yet.
I realized that, but I wanted to go like that.
Yeah, you wanted to show it. Like somebody asked me about Mary Sue versus Scarlet Witch, and I said that's a good one, but Mary Sue's not published yet. So that.
Well, I mean, I'm doing a character on my show. It's not published yet, so I've done one before.
I have the artwork right next to me.
Your rules, T-Bunny. You know who I picture as Poinsettia is the girl from the first Thor movie, the assistant.
Oh yeah, she's in the that's perfect. She's in that sitcom.
Yeah,
I'll tell you. I'm going to throw one out that's going to get you sprung.
Yeah.
So Blade versus Vampire Hunter D.
See, I don't know manga. Icarus and Gilgamesh, the only Eternals.
Vampire Hunter D is a novel. He's a novel character, but he's basically a vampire, which is the same as Blade, but his father's actually Dracula. So yeah,
we got two people out of we had 78 people at one point. 2 people out of 78 people that said Asgard. Everybody else said the Greeks.
But I think that would be if everybody knew the characters, I think that'd be a really good discussion of Vampire Hunter D versus Blade.
And I think it's time to do Darkseid versus Thanos for next week. How's that?
Okay.
Darkseid versus Thanos. And of course, it's an open invite. Everybody's welcome. And also don't take this too seriously. This is just a bunch of geeks. This is a proxy comic book store on Wednesday. Our breath smelled like Funyuns.
Ox on your house. Anyway.
Yeah, we're just having some fun.
Just keep the Italians away from it, and you'll be fine.
I also like think of like Merlin versus like Gandalf and Dumbledore. Like
that would be a good one. That would be a good one. Yeah.
Thanos with or without the Infinity Gauntlet. That's like
which version of Gandalf?
We have to see these are the things you bring up in the fight. Like, does Thanos have the Infinity Gauntlet? Okay, but does Darkseid have the anti-life equation? Things like that. So this is the fun stuff that you talk about.
Kat Dennings is the girl you're thinking of.
Yeah, Kat Dennings. If not Kat Dennings, there's like a young Salma Hayek would be perfect.
Yeah.
No.
Salma Hayek is always the right answer.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Salma Hayek. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just watched From Dusk Till Dawn the other day.
Because Poinsettia is her character. She's Mexican American.
I'll take a 60-year-old Salma Hayek as a matter.
Because Poinsettia.
Recently, she looks fantastic.
Poinsettia is inspired by
Poinsettia has flotation devices. We dealt with. John asked for flotation devices. He gets it.
Well, like I said, she's inspired by a lot of Love and Rockets women. Like she's an amalgamation of.
I read a lot of that.
Of all those characters. So there we go. I'm gonna shut the stream down and see if I'm assuming Yellow Flash is gonna go.
Okay, I hope so. I'll be
see if I'm gonna get clipped, attacked, or whatever. But I just want to talk about comic books. Yep. Yeah, a lot of Selma Hayek. Yep. She is like a thoroughbred is the only way to describe her. Like there's Kate Dennings is Kate Dennings, Salma Hayek, Cindy. These women are like top, like they're the opposite of freaks.
Salma Hayek is there you go.
Like you go to a freak show because somebody has like two heads and stuff like that. They have freak genetics in the opposite direction. Like Henry Cavill is like a freak of manliness. All right, but before I start saying silly things, I'll stop now. And Sunday, it's Sunday Comics. We're going to continue with the Project Pegasus. Heroic Tales is chugging along. If I get a sale a day until it's over, I'll hit my goal.
If he works a lot of overtime, he'll be able to afford Heroic Tales. So let's go.
Yeah, and we'll start with Marcus, and we'll go around. Anything you want to pitch? Anything you want to?
We're going to be, James and I will be on the studio Saturday. Hojo's going to be on. I suppose we're trying to Mythicals, or that has not been decided yet. But I probably prefer to do that. Other than that, not much else. Somebody start to work on the Public Eye, sketching out some storytelling. Nothing will get done, John. You won't have to pay me until you're ready. And that's about it. You follow me on X.
You're gonna like growing Nancy Moon. I'll say that.
I'm actually kind of finished with a bunch of stuff, so commissions are a good time if somebody really wants to pay me for stuff. I'm really not that expensive, by the way. So
no, he's not.
James, anything you want to pitch?
Yeah, I need to get a new camera. Mine just went out.
Oh, okay.
So no.
Oh,
okay, T-Bunny.
And he's gone. Huh?
Are you,
I got a Cryptic Conspiracies 9:00 tomorrow night. We're going to talk about is the federal government hiding Bigfoot from the public?
We never did talk about Nephilim and the giants that are rumored to be here. If that had anything to do with Asgard,
we did. Is the government hiding giants a couple weeks back? So
I like to think that they were giants at one point. Yeah.
Oh, there were. There definitely were. There's no doubt about it.
Wow.
But every giant skeleton's been taken. There's a 7'9" kid out there in basketball right now.
Oh yeah, I know.
He is massive.
Okay, James, you back? Is your camera working?
I hope so. My camera's dead, so so I may not make that. Don't forget tomorrow night studio. Hopefully, I'll have a new camera or something where I'll be able to.
Out to Best Buy, James goes.
One of those things. So see us on the studio. Marcus will be there too tomorrow night, 7:00.
And Omnipro asked, "What are you and Yellow Flash?" comics. I never prepare.
He's a comic to promote. He doesn't do that much promotion, so it's good for him to be on the show.
So I don't know. We'll find out together. You know that yesterday Harmony Ginger was on my channel right before we went live. She goes, "What are you going to talk about?" I go, "I don't know." And we ended up talking.
Maybe he played D&D. We don't know. I like Harmony Ginger until I got interrupted by my wife. I apologize.
Yeah. See you in a while, crocodile. Catch you later, alligator. And goodbye, everybody.